Chapter 50. Han Fei wandered on his own happily. He had dealt with 3 groups of people in the same way. At this moment, 5 of the 8 cabins on his boat had been filled. In the meantime, an inspector came to count the points. The inspector was stunned when the score was calculated. 1,012 points. It had only been 2 hours, and someone had already scored more than 1,000 points. In the 6th hour, Tang Ge, the first place, only had 691 points. This person was obviously not Tang Ge, but he had easily scored more than 1,000 points. If he could maintain such a score, he would definitely be among the top hundreds even if he did nothing else. About a moment later, the village leader's voice echoed again. There are 4 hours to go before the end of this fishing trial. So far, the first place has 1,431 points, the 10th has 966 points, the 100th has 552 points, and the 1,000th has 241 points. Keep up the good work, everyone. After the 4th broadcast, the whole sea area was seething. The score was increasing more and more crazily. In the blink of an eye, the top 10 had already scored more than 1,000 points. At this moment, those who had teamed up were looking for targets, and those who hadn't found allies either went to their allies or started to run to the edge of the trial field. Some people even activated the distress device on their boat and gave up the game when they saw a boat coming at them from afar. There were indeed a lot of people like that. Some level 6 fishers would fish in an empty corner and get hundreds of points. Then, they would end the trial as soon as they saw someone coming at them. There were many such cases in the past, but when the score was finally calculated, some of them could always make it to the top 1,000. But different from others, Han Fei wandered on his own, relying on his inexhaustible spiritual energy and his high level. But some people were different. Wang Baiyu and Li Hu were very different. They didn't move at all, but many boats came to them and offered all their gains to them. Wang Baiyu was similar to Han Fei. His Wang family had much more connections than the tigers, so he could wander while eating sea melon seeds. Li Hu was different. Although some boats came to him to offer points, they were mostly the kids of the tigers. So, he knew that he couldn't rely on these people. He had to rob them himself. But Li Hu was different from Han Fei. Han Fei was waiting for others to rob his lonely fishing boat. Li Hu took the initiative to rob those fishing boats in groups of 3 or 5. Not only did he rob, but he also liked to kill people. Almost no one who encountered Li Hu could survive. He Xiaoyu was in a panic. Although she had made a breakthrough, she was no match for a pack of wolves. Just now, 3 boats came to rob her, but they underestimated He Xiaoyu's strength and were defeated by her. But because of this, He Xiaoyu's spiritual energy was exhausted too, and she had to take a spirit refilling pill. At this moment, she only had 1 spirit supplement pill left. At this moment, 4 boats approached from 4 directions. He Xiaoyu was desperate. Although she had just looted some points, could she survive this time? The last remaining supplement spirit pill absolutely could not be used in battle. He Xiaoyu was ready to fight. She had 2 plans. One was to defeat these 4 people, rob their points, and admit defeat after the last spirit refilling pill was used up. The other was to run to the periphery. After all, she still had a spirit supplement pill. If she used it, they might not be able to catch up with her. But when the boats were about to surround He Xiaoyu, a strong fish leaped out of the water, followed by a boat that was sailing at the highest speed. One of the fishing boats didn't pay attention to it and was approached by Li Hu. Li Hu stepped forward and slashed with 2 knives in his hands. The young man on the boat had multiple holes in his body when he raised his rod to fight back. As Li Hu drew out his daggers, the young man vomited blood crazily. He Xiaoyu was dumbfounded. She was so scared that her face turned pale at the violent killing. Someone on another boat shouted, "Run! It's Li Hu from the tigers. Run!" However, before he could finish his words, a ferocious tiger-headed fish appeared behind him. As the others cried out in alarm, he turned around and felt his vision go black. To be precise, his head was gone. Ah! He Xiaoyu screamed. She was scared to see the headless body spurting blood. Li Hu frowned. Shut up. He Xiaoyu hurried to pick up the bamboo rod, ready to run. But it was fine that she did not take the bamboo rod. After all, there were 2 other boats here. She might have a chance to escape. But Li Hu saw the bamboo rod immediately. He knew that it couldn't be a regular person who could afford it. He shouted, "Tiger head, kill her." At this moment, He Xiaoyu was already controlling the boat to run, but the boat was not as fast as the tiger-headed fish. The big fish leaped out of the water again and charged at He Xiaoyu. When He Xiaoyu talked about the bamboo stick, spiritual light flashed on the stick, and the tip of the stick gathered. Li Hu roared, "Tiger head, come back," but in the blink of an eye, He Xiaoyu was knocked back by the tiger head and hit the deck. Blood was flowing out of her mouth. Of course, the tiger-headed fish seemed to be slightly wounded too. But she did not dare to stay and hurried to flee on the boat. Li Hu had become a cold-blooded killer. You want to run after hurting the tiger head? Li Hu simply abandoned the other 2 people and went straight to He Xiaoyu. The remaining 2 heaved a long sigh of relief and horror, but before they were relieved, 5 or 6 fishing boats had surrounded them from all directions. One of them said desperately, "Not good. They're from the tigers." He Xiaoyu ran fast. She felt lucky that they did not fight just now, or she would have run out of spiritual energy. She would have been killed if she encountered Li Hu. The 2 boats were only a few hundred meters away from each other. He Xiaoyu shouted while she ran, "Li Hu, do you know who my father is?" "My father is He Mingtang." Li Hu roared, "My father is Li Ju. What can you do to me even if I kill you?" He Xiaoyu said, "You lunatic, I'll quit the trial if you keep chasing me." Li Hu said, "It will be too late when the inspectors come to save you." He Xiaoyu felt wronged. Who did I piss off? Why are they chasing me? I'm already level 7, but I'm still being chased. Half an hour later, He Xiaoyu's eyes glittered. She saw an expert from her school. "Qin Yi, help me." The boy named Qin Yi was only at the peak of level 6. Seeing that He Xiaoyu was being chased by Li Hu, he simply slipped away. "Do you think I dare to mess with the tigers?" He Xiaoyu scolded, "Asshole." On her way, He Xiaoyu called for help whenever she met anyone, but the boats avoided her as if she were the plague. Nobody was willing to piss off Li Hu for her. He Xiaoyu ran out of spiritual energy. She swallowed the last spirit refilling pill without hesitation, and her spiritual energy was immediately replenished. At this moment, she saw Hu Kuan who was robbing someone else. She immediately cried, "Hun Kuan, help." Hu Kuan had just reached level 7 yesterday, so he was bold enough to rob 2 boats on his own. Seeing that He Xiaoyu was being chased and calling for help, he was surprised to see that someone was bold enough to rob this girl. "Shoot, Li Hu." Hu Kuan's face slightly changed. He simply abandoned the remaining points and hurried to leave. He Xiaoyu felt so wrong that her tears were about to fall. What kind of people are they? Was Li Hu so scary? Han Fei was basking in the sun. 6 of the 8 cabins were already full. He felt that there were too few cabins on the fishing boat and it would soon be full. But he was not in a hurry at all. When his boats were full, he could simply rob other people's boats. Han Fei sighed. What a loss. There are so many fish, but I can't absorb them all. No, I must apply to take them back for barbecue. Well, they're all blade fish, and they taste good. Swoosh, Han Fei shouted, Hey, hey. Bro, don't run. Let's form an alliance. This was the 3rd boat that slipped past Han Fei. He was lost for words. Did these people's spiritual energy cost nothing? They were not robbing him, but they were running so fast. Suddenly, he saw 2 boats coming at him quickly. Han Fei was immediately refreshed. Guests were coming. Did he have to pretend that he was running too? Han Fei immediately pretended to be injured and sped up the boat, pretending that he was also running away. They were getting closer and closer. Hey, isn't that He Xiaoyu? Oh, this girl is robbing me too. He Xiaoyu was hundreds of meters away from Han Fei when He Xiaoyu raised her hand and shouted, "Run, Han Fei, run now." Han Fei. He Xiaoyu was lost for words. Other people were running, but Han Fei ran into her. What should she do? Although Han Fei was strong, he was Li Hu. Chapter 51. His confidence came from his strength. Han Fei was not panicked at all. He was amused to see Li Hu who was chasing after him. Han Fei said, "He Xiaoyu, stop. Don't panic. Let's work together and kill him." He Xiaoyu was almost in tears. "Who are you going to kill?" He Xiaoyu said, "We can't beat him. He has a tiger head fish as a contractual spiritual pet. We can't defeat him." Han Fei asked, "Huh? What spiritual pet?" Li Hu was surprised too, not because he ran into Han Fei, but because he heard Han Fei's name. He seemed to be in trouble. Was this really Han Fei? He Xiaoyu controlled the boat, ready to escape at any moment. However, Han Fei stood at the head of the boat and shouted at Li Hu arrogantly, "Thief, give your boat to me now, or I won't go easy on you." Li Hu said gloomily, "Han Fei, there is no grudge between us. Since you are protecting her, I'll let her go." Han Fei said, "Bullshit, it's none of your business. You are now the fish on the chopping block, and I am the butcher. Give me your points, or I'll show you why corals are so red." He Xiaoyu was stunned. Since when was Han Fei so domineering? More importantly, Li Hu seemed to be scared of him. Li Hu said, "Han Fei, don't push your luck. Tang Gu won't stay in the Heavenly Water Village forever. He can't protect you forever." Han Fei said, "It's none of your business. You can protect me now. Hurry up. I'll give you one last chance. If you don't want the tigers to be destroyed, you'd better give your points to me obediently." He Xiaoyu finally realized that Han Fei was domineering with Tang Ji's help. But she was no longer scared. "That's right. Do you dare to touch Han Fei?" Li Hu looked awful. He couldn't afford to piss off Tang Gu, nor could he afford to piss off Han Fei for now. But he secretly gestured at the sea and took a deep breath. "Han Fei, how about I give you half of my points?" Han Fei said, "What do you mean by that?" "Those are my points. Do you know what to say?" "They are all mine, not 1 point less." Holding back his anger, Li Hu said solemnly, "There are a lot of fish. Do you want to move them with me?" Han Fei was so angry that he laughed. "Didn't I tell you? Was your head hit by an iron-head fish when you were a kid? I robbed you, and you want me to be a coolie? Throw the fish into my cabin yourself. I'm not in a hurry. I have plenty of time." He Xiaoyu jumped onto Han Fei's boat and whispered to Han Fei, "Be careful. He just killed quite a few people." Han Fei's face changed slightly. Even now, he didn't want to kill anyone. After all, they were all children. He couldn't bear to see them die in the sea at such a young age. He did not expect Li Hu to actually kill someone. Li Hu thought to himself, "Humph, so what? There's no one here, and Tang Gu is not here. If I kill him and He Xiaoyu here, who will know that I did it?" Holding back his fury, Li Hu continued to transfer points to Han Fei's fish cabin. Han Fei urged from time to time, "Why are you so slow? Didn't you eat?" Li Hu thought to himself, "If I wait a little longer, you won't have to leave." He Xiaoyu looked at Han Fei, lost for words. The guy used to be taciturn, but he had changed after he fell into the sea last time. He Xiaoyu asked, "Han Fei, how many points do you have now?" Han Fei thought for a moment and said, "I don't know. I'm waiting for the inspectors to calculate it for me." At this moment, Li Hu suddenly said, "Han Fei, your fish cabins are all full." Han Fei answered without hesitation, Oh, it's full. He Xiaoyu, do you have an empty cabin? He Xiaoyu's mouth was wide open. Didn't the fish cabins only happen to the top 10? Yes, I have 4 empty cabins. Han Fei asked, if I put them in yours, they will count as my points, right? He Xiaoyu said, probably. Then, Han Fei pointed at Li Hu and said, then you move them to her cabin. Don't slack off. Hurry up. I'm going to rob them. Li Hu stuffed fish into He Xiaoyu's cabin without saying anything, but he was secretly shocked that the guy's cabin was all full of blade fish when he opened one of the cabins. How did he do it? He Xiaoyu asked timidly, how many points did you get in the last hour? Han Fei thought for a moment and said, I don't remember. I think I got more than 1,000 points. He Xiaoyu, Li Hu. At this moment, the village leader's voice echoed in the sky, there are 2 hours to go before the end of the fishing trial. Keep it up, everybody. Han Fei exclaimed in surprise, why didn't the village leader report the points? He Xiaoyu rolled her eyes. There's no need to report the points after the 1,000th place is reported. The points in the last 4 hours are chaotic, so it's not easy to calculate. Didn't you see that the inspectors are gone? They're not allowed to show up at this moment. They're all at the periphery. Han Fei blinked and said, seriously? Isn't that an inspector? Han Fei pointed at a boat that was sailing close not far away. There was an inspector on it. It was easy to tell that the inspectors were all old, and this man seemed to be in his 30s. Who else could it be if not an inspector? Suddenly, Han Fei narrowed his eyes. Wait, we're surrounded. Han Fei saw black spots in the distance and then looked around, only to see at least dozens of fishing boats approaching from all directions. Ha ha ha. Han Fei, it's time for you to die. Even if he's Tang Ji's brother, so what? Since he's not here, why should I kill you? Shocked, He Xiaoyu said in a hurry, let's run. Run? Han Fei's lazy expression suddenly disappeared and he showed a trace of fierceness. On the sea, they were all on the same fishing boat. Where could they run to? Kill the leader first. I'll kill you first. Han Fei suddenly attacked with the purple bamboo rod in his hand. Spiritual energy gushed out from the purple bamboo rod and went straight to Li Hu's face. Li Hu sneered, do you think you're Tang Gu? I'm not even scared of Tang Gu. Li Hu's rod surged with spiritual energy too, and he smashed at Han Fei brutally. Stop! The inspector's voice came 1,000 meters away, which confirmed that something was wrong with the inspector, because the inspector couldn't do anything about it. Han Fei's eyes were cold, and he did not hold back at all. His spiritual energy storage of 279 points was not a joke. The higher the upper limit, the stronger his body would be. Clang, bam. To He Xiaoyu's surprise, Li Hu was blown away by the attack and crashed into the cabin. Pooh! Li Hu vomited blood crazily, and his arms seemed to be broken. Li Hu was shocked. How is it possible? How can he be so strong? How can I, a level 8 fisher, be no match for him? Before Li Hu realized what was going on, Han Fei had jumped. Li Hu was appalled. If he had been hit, he would have been heavily wounded if not killed. Tiger head, attach. Huh? Han Fei turned around, and an ugly 3-meter-long fish darted into Li Hu's body as fast as lightning. What the hell? However, Li Hu's body suddenly swelled up. His face was ferocious, and the spiritual energy on the surface of his body became denser. The shadow of a big fish appeared. He Xiaoyu said, be careful. He's merged with his pet. His combat ability will be much higher. Han Fei narrowed his eyes. Then I'll smash him a few more times. I told you to stop. The inspector was coming at him in a hurry, but Han Fei ignored him and smashed his rod again. This time, the tip of the purple bamboo rod glittered. Han Fei had used spiritual energy explosion. Li Hu was so furious that he had to deal with the power of spiritual energy explosion carefully even though he had become stronger. He gathered all his spiritual energy and launched spiritual energy explosion 2. Explode, BAM, 2 cabins on Li Hu's boat were blown up by the blast of spiritual energy explosion. Li Hu, on the other hand, was bleeding from his eyes, nose, mouth, and mouth. He could barely hold the rod anymore. He felt that his hands were broken. Han Fei, on the other hand, jumped back and launched another spiritual energy explosion from the purple bamboo rod. Li Hu was greatly shocked. Don't kill me. Don't kill me, Han Fei was not an idiot. If he did not take down Li Hu now, it would be too late later. But when the purple bamboo rod was about to hit Li Hu, a big fish seemed to leap out of Li Hu's body. Bam! Bam! Chapter 52. He's not dead. Han Fei was shocked. He knew very well how powerful his attack was. It was more than 1,000 kilograms. He was confident that even a level 9 fisher wouldn't dare to resist it if he exerted his full strength. However, the fish was still alive after being hit by it. Little bastard, I told you to stop. Han Fei failed to kill Li Hu in 3 attacks, and the inspector was already 30 meters away. Han Fei's eyes were cold. He decided to kill the inspector. When the inspector's boat was closer, he jumped to it in a hurry. But the moment the inspector jumped to the sky, Han Fei jumped back and activated spiritual energy explosion on the purple bamboo rod again. Audacious! How dare you? Of course, there were strong and weak inspectors. Apart from the 4 major schools, even the inspectors and law enforcers were mostly level 9 fishers or peak-level fishers. In Han Fei's eyes, this inspector couldn't be a fishing master. If he was, he could have attacked from 100 meters away, but he didn't, which meant that he was at most a peak-level fisher. So, Han Fei decided to try his best. Explode, you're out of your mind, air billowed in midair, and He Xiaoyu was blown back a couple of steps by the airwaves. Plop, after an explosion, both of them fell into the sea. Han Fei. He Xiaoyu's face was pale, and her head went blank. It was not a joke for a fisher to fall into the sea. There were no fishing masters here, and they were almost dead. The person who was the most shocked was the patrol inspector. He was completely dumbfounded. Does this young man want to perish together with me? Why did he use spiritual energy explosion 4 times? But there was no time for him to think. The moment he fell into the sea, he hurried to cover himself with a spiritual energy protective cover. Hardly had he stabilized himself when a green light smashed at him. Gudu, the inspector was appalled. He was smashed dozens of meters into the water, and his chest was punched out by Han Fei. He was shocked. Who was this young man exactly? Why was he so strong? But it was not the time to think about that. The inspector hurried to float up. He saw blade fish swimming by and snakebelt far away. However, Han Fei was right above him. At this moment, he grinned, revealing his white teeth. This was the first time Han Fei had used the wandering dragon art. Although he was not familiar with it, it was completely different from before. In the water, he was like a fish, rolling and moving easily. Not good. Seeing that Han Fei was swimming over, the inspector hurriedly waved his rod and the rod cut through the seawater. Unfortunately, his movements were too slow, and he only saw a cold light flash past his wrist. The rod slipped out of the inspector's hand and blood gushed out of his wrist. Han Fei glanced at the approaching snakebelt and gave up the chase. He waved at the inspector. On the surface of the sea, He Xiaoyu was still staring at the surface of the sea, and not far away, dozens of boats were coming as fast as they could. Ha! Ha! Cough cough. You can't escape. Shut up. Do you believe that I will throw you into the sea right now? Li Hu said, No, you can't kill me. Even if I'm heavily injured, you can't kill me. Falling into the sea, he won't be able to survive, ha ha ha. Bang! Hardly had Li Hu finished his sentence when Han Fei broke out of the water and landed on the deck. Li Hu asked, How? How is it possible? How are you still alive? He Xiaoyu cried in joy. Han Fei, are you alright? You scared me. I thought you were dead. Woo, woo. Holding the purple bamboo rod, Han Fei looked at the surface of the sea and said calmly, the inspector happened to run into the snake belt after he fell into the water. TSK, TSK. I saw the snake belt crawl into his mouth with my own eyes. TSK, tisk, you. Imagining the picture, He Xiaoyu was so disgusted that she almost threw up. Li Hu's face changed greatly. He pointed at Han Fei, trembling. You dare to kill the inspector? Han Fei said, which eye of yours saw me kill the inspector? After staring for a while, Han Fei saw that nothing was happening on the surface of the sea. It seemed that the inspector couldn't come up anymore. So, he walked to Li Hu in relief and said, Tisk, TSK. If it weren't for points, I would have killed you right now. Then, Han Fei raised his rod and smashed it, and the tiger-head fish that were still alive charged at Han Fei. Explode, Han Fei seemed to have seen it coming. He performed spiritual energy explosion again and smashed the tiger-head fish to the deck again. Bam! 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 Han Fei raised the purple bamboo rod and smashed it with such force that even the deck was smashed. Finally, the big fish was beaten half to death. Li Hu shuddered at the scene. That was a tiger-head fish. It was a rare species in the general fishery and the level 1 fishery, but it had been deformed by Han Fei and was dying. Tiger-head, Han Fei was about to smash it again, when the tiger-head fish turned into a streak of light and landed on Li Hu's wrist, condensing into the shape of a fish. Han Fei looked at He Xiaoyu in surprise. Is the fish so tough? It's still alive. He Xiaoyu said, that's the power of the contract. The tiger-head fish was dying, but Li Hu recalled it into his body. However, when the contract beast is wounded, the contract partner will be wounded too. Han Fei looked at Li Hu, only to discover that the guy was vomiting blood non-stop. Han Fei was rather lost for words. How could such a big fish be stored into his body? Wouldn't it be the same as his calabash? No wonder Li Ju, the leader of the tigers, could dominate the level 1 fishery. It would be hard for anyone to die with such a fish. Thief, let go of my young master. How dare you attack the young master of the tigers? Do you want to die? You've been surrounded. Let go of my young master if you don't want to die. Looking at the dozens of boats that surrounded him, Han Fei picked up the crippled Li Hu and said to them, give me your points, or I'll cripple him. How dare you give me the points of the black tigers? Ah! One of Li Hu's hands was broken, and he screamed miserably. Han Fei asked, did I not make myself clear, or do you have bad ears? Li Hu said, what are you waiting for? Give it to him. Han Fei said, fill that boat too. Pointing at He Xiaoyu's boat, Han Fei turned around and said to He Xiaoyu, we're classmates after all. I'll cover for you. He Xiaoyu was dumbfounded. Wasn't Han Fei too ferocious? But Han Fei was truly awesome. Li Hu, a level 8 fisher who owned a tiger-head fish, was crippled, the fake inspector died miserably, and he robbed a dozen boats at once. Was he still the Han Fei she knew? Han Fei left 2 boats, which were packed to the brim. After the cabins of the dozen boats were completely emptied, Han Fei patted Li Hu's face lazily and said, I'm out of the game. Li Hu's face slightly changed. There's only half an hour left. You're asking me to quit the game? Are you trying to stop me from participating in the talent awakening? Gotcha, ah. Han Fei broke Li Hu's leg with the rod and grinned. Do you need me to repeat myself? Li Hu's eyes were filled with fear. He realized that Han Fei was not as ruthless as the rumors said. He was a ruthless person, a very ruthless person. If he refused, he might really be fed to the fish in the sea. Li Hu gnashed his teeth. I'm out. When the real inspector came, he was shocked to see how miserable Li Hu was. Was he still the brutal and domineering young master of the tigers? Before he left, Li Hu glared at Han Fei. Han Fei said, "What are you looking at? I'll gouge out your eyes if you keep looking. Tell your father that you wasted 10 of my spirit refilling pills. Let him deal with it." Li Hu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets, and blood flowed out of his mouth. But he had to hold back his fury. If Han Fei asked Tang Gu to deal with the tigers, he would be doomed. After Li Hu was dragged away, He Xiaoyu finally asked, "Why? Why didn't you?" Han Fei said lazily, "As long as he's alive, his father won't hesitate to do anything." On the other side, Tang Gu and Wang Baiyu ran into each other. Tang Gu said, "Give me your points, and I won't kill you." Wang Baiyu sweated hard. "How did I run into this guy in a fishery with a range of 100 kilometers? Wang Baiyu said in a hurry, "Tang Gu, Han Fei, and I are good friends. Right, he owes me a favor." Tang Gu frowned. "Speak." "If I learn that you lied to me," Wang Baiyu said, "last time Han Fei was set up and drifted on the sea for 5 days and 5 nights, I met him and saved him." "Say that again." Infuriated, Tang Gu pointed the golden rod at Wang Baiyu. Wang Baiyu said, "Everybody in the port knows about it. I don't know who did it, but the port has been investigating it. I think Han Fei knows what he's doing." Tang Gu put down the rod. "So to speak, Han Fei does owe you a favor. But if I let you go, the favor will be gone." Chapter 53. Speaking of which, in the last hour, everyone went crazy. Those who had enough points wanted to get more points so that they could get a better rank in the spiritual awakening. Those who had average points hoped to make it to the top 100, and those who didn't have enough points were those who had been robbed. They were unwilling to give up and wanted to take it back. However, there was only half an hour left in the fishing trial. Who dared to stay on the field? Those who had been robbed couldn't get any benefits at all. More importantly, the alliances at the beginning of the trial were collapsing. Originally, these people's fishing boats were all tied together. Some people were stabbed by their allies next to them accidentally, some people robbed them openly, and some people suddenly unleashed their hidden strength, killing other members of the alliance and pocketing all the points. Therefore, more and more people quit the trial, especially those who still had a lot of points after their alliances collapsed. Many of them simply chose to end the trial. Of course, there was also another situation, which was that the alliances were getting larger and larger, led by one of them. Some even gathered a dozen boats. Usually, such people were heavenly talents who promised all kinds of benefits to other people. Among them, the most typical one was Xia Wushuang from the West Campus, who had a level 4, low-quality spiritual heritage. He was undoubtedly a heavenly talent who was bound to soar. Therefore, many people wanted to suck up to him and help him fight for points. On Han Fei's side, the two of them occupied 4 boats that were full of points. Anybody's eyes would be green with envy. If the people from the East Campus saw Han Fei and He Xiaoyu, they would have run away immediately. However, Xia Wushuang was not from the East Campus. He was from the West and didn't know Han Fei at all. Although Xia Wushuang knew that Han Fei and He Xiaoyu might be strong, they couldn't be more than level 8. He was level 8 himself, and he had a dozen lackeys with him. Wouldn't the two of them fight for the points? He Xiaoyu had been fine ever since she hung out with Han Fei. She felt that it wouldn't be a problem for her to make it to the top 100. She was eating sea melon seeds at this moment. Suddenly, He Xiaoyu shouted, "A fleet is coming." Han Fei said, "I saw it. It's a huge package." He Xiaoyu. Han Fei smiled and handed over a spirit refilling pill. "You take care of the small fries. I'll take care of the strongest ones." He Xiaoyu jumped to her feet. "There are a dozen minions, but only one of them is the strongest. He Xiaoyu, you are a level 7 fisher after all. Can't you bear some pressure?" He Xiaoyu pouted. "Even a dozen level 5 fishers can exhaust a level 7 fisher to death, alright? What's more, I've just entered the 7th level, and I don't have your innate divine strength. How am I supposed to fight you? Han Fei was lost for words. Forget it. Half each. Is that okay? He Xiaoyu said, the strongest one is yours. He Xiaoyu, let me tell you, you can't become an expert like this. He Xiaoyu said, I don't need to be an expert. I just want to be a great fishing master. My father wants me to be a great fishing master because I'm destined not to be one. After that, I'll be free. Han Fei sweated. He Xiaoyu, your idea is very dangerous. He Xiaoyu said, I don't care. You're stronger than me anyway. You can even kill inspectors. You're at least as strong as a level 9 fisher. Then, He Xiaoyu looked up at the sky. Han Fei was only a level 2 fisher a month ago. It had only been a few days, but he was already strong enough to fight level 9 fishers. If Tang Gu was a monster, was Han Fei a monster too? Han Fei suggested, how about we defeat them one by one? He Xiaoyu asked, how can we defeat them one by one? They'll definitely attack together. Why don't we end the trial? I think you're good enough to be in the top 10. Han Fei said angrily, if I'm in the top 10, why can't I be in the top 3? There's no reward except for the top 3. He Xiaoyu said, actually, there is. According to the rules, the top 10 can choose a battle technique. Han Fei said in disdain, what good battle technique can there be in our village? I'd better be in the top 3. He Xiaoyu almost wanted to smack the guy into the ocean. She was so nervous, but the guy was still bragging. Xia Wushuang stood at the bow of the boat with his hands behind his back, looking at them casually. When the boat approached, Xia Wushuang looked at Han Fei curiously and asked, I'm curious. Why didn't you run? Han Fei said, we didn't have enough hands to sail the boat, or we would have run away. Xia Wushuang asked. Have you been robbed? Han Fei suddenly said angrily, can't you be more respectful? Xia Wushuang. Han Fei said, let go of your hand. How can you keep your hand behind your back when you're talking to him? Xia Wushuang, He Xiaoyu was almost crying. He's already in front of you. Just fight him. What are you talking about? Xia Wushuang said, hand over your points, and I'll spare your life. Han Fei asked, are you in the top 3 in terms of points now? Xia Wushuang. Xia Wushuang was lost for words. Why did he feel that he couldn't communicate with this guy? Can we talk nicely? Xia Wushuang said patiently, not yet. Han Fei's eyes immediately glittered. Then give me your points. I'm not bad. Xia Wushuang. Xia Wushuang said gloomily, it seems that you don't want to give them to me. Han Fei said, I'll give them to you. Xia Wushuang secretly heaved a sigh of relief. It would be best if they didn't have to fight. He didn't want to fight with the person in front of him, because he saw the traces of a fierce battle on this ship, and the intensity of the battle was very high, which meant that this person's strength was definitely not low. However, in the next second, Han Fei said, I'll give you a hammer. Before Xia Wushuang realized what was going on, Han Fei had jumped up, and the purple bamboo rod flashed with spiritual energy. Explode, Xia Wushuang's face changed greatly. Spiritual energy explosion could only be used by fishers above level 7. More importantly, why did he feel that the spiritual energy was even denser than when he used it? Xia Wushuang hurriedly tried to block it with his rod, but he forgot that he didn't hold the rod in his hand just now. Immediately, Xia Wushuang stomped hard and tried to bounce back. Behind Xia Wushuang, the 4 level 6 fishers realized what was going on and hurriedly fought back with their rods. With a BAM, all 4 of them collapsed to the ground, and one of them even passed out, his body still twitching. Everybody on Xia Wushuang's side was stunned. They had no idea which expert they had pissed off. Instead of waiting for them to counterattack, Han Fei landed on Xia Wushuang's boat and stomped hard at Xia Wushuang. At this moment, Xia Wushuang was greatly shocked. His hand had just touched his rod, but he was still in midair. The only thing he could do was to block it with his rod. Clang! Xia Wushuang's body smashed the cover of the boat and fell into the fish cabin, leaving a mouthful of blood in midair. Han Fei stood calmly next to the fish cabin and said, I told you not to pretend to be cool. You should be polite and treat others equally. Who gave you the courage to put your hands behind your back when you're facing an enemy? Ah! With a roar in the cabin, a flash of spiritual energy flashed, and Xia Wushuang ejected at Han Fei. Bim! Xia Wushuang was smashed into the fish cabin again. Han Fei said, Stop shouting. You used spiritual energy explosion before you stabilized your body. Is this what your teacher taught you? Not far away, the other young men who were about to surround him all stopped, and some tried to sneak back to their boats. Han Fei raised his rod and pointed it at the guy. If you dare to run one more step, I'll break your legs and throw you into the ocean. The young man put on a gloomy face and dared not run anymore, but he was terrified. It was Xia Wushuang. A level 4, low-quality fisher with a level 8 spiritual heritage was knocked down by 2 strikes. Who was this guy? Not caring what they were thinking, Han Fei shouted to He Xiaoyu, collect your points. He Xiaoyu was dumbfounded. She had been ready for a fierce battle, but how long had it been? The battle was over before I even had a chance to jump on their boat? Who are you? Xia Wushuang grabbed the fish cabin with both hands and looked at Han Fei with his mouth full of blood. Han Fei said solemnly, I'm the person you can't beat. Xia Wushuang. Chapter 54. Xia Wushuang's trial ended early for no other reason than that he had lost all his combat ability and that his subordinates, who were at the peak of level 6, had been knocked down. The remaining level 5 fishers would be lucky if they didn't get robbed themselves. At this moment, Han Fei said to He Xiaoyu in distress on the deck, we can't drive away with so many boats. He Xiaoyu said, with so many boats here, nobody will dare to rob you. They've all been scared away. Han Fei asked, He Xiaoyu, do you think we're the first place now? He Xiaoyu said, yes, you're the first place. I think you're below the 100th place. Speaking of that, He Xiaoyu was rather angry. The battle had ended before she could do anything, so she was too embarrassed to ask Han Fei to give her a boat or 2. Han Fei said, that won't do. I think I have too many points. I'll give you 1. 2 boats. Then you'll be in the top 100. He Xiaoyu's eyes glittered. Did you say that? Immediately, He Xiaoyu was about to pick up a boat with a smile, exclaiming now and then. Han Fei said, green turtles. Yellow fish. Take whatever you want. Don't take too many blade fish. He Xiaoyu, it was almost dusk, and the enormous sun seemed to be hanging on the surface of the sea. 1 step forward and he would be able to walk into it. Sitting on the deck and watching the sun, Han Fei mumbled, there's no wine. There's no smoke. What is smoke? He Xiaoyu had already picked a boat. She felt that she would definitely be in the top 100. As for the top 3, she wouldn't pursue it, nor was she capable of it. Han Fei asked, have you found that this world is very beautiful? He Xiaoyu asked, isn't it? My father said that the bottom of the sea is beautiful and that there are thousands of colors. I really want to see it. Han Fei rolled his eyes at her. You good for nothing. Have you never appreciated such a big sun? What's so beautiful about the sun? Han Fei said with a smile, have you never wondered why there is such a big sun? Don't you find it amazing? What is it that attracts such a huge sun? What is it that prevents the sun from crashing into us? He Xiaoyu looked at Han Fei as if he were an idiot. Of course it's the sea god. Lord Sea God grabbed the brightest star in the darkness, and that was how the sun came to be. Han Fei, haha, why doesn't he go to heaven? He Xiaoyu said, don't speak ill of the sea god. The sea god created the ocean, brought us light, and created all the beauty in the world. He Xiaoyu, have you ever seen a rainbow? He Xiaoyu. Han Fei immediately grabbed the kettle and said to He Xiaoyu, "Look at the sky." Han Fei grabbed the kettle and took a big gulp. Then, he sprayed water into the sky. Puff. 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 He Xiaoyu stared blankly at Han Fei, who was spraying water. She pitied him. He seemed to have lost his mind. Am I going to become the Han Fei from a month ago again? Suddenly, He Xiaoyu looked at the mist in shock and rubbed her eyes hard, her mouth wide open. Han Fei said, "Shut up. What are you yelling for?" He Xiaoyu pulled Han Fei and pointed at the sky. Colorful divine light, it can lead to the sea god's domain, Han Fei said, "Shut up. You're so uneducated." Han Fei waved his hand in the air until the rainbow was gone, before he said, "It's called a rainbow. It's caused by the dispersion and reflection of the water droplets in the sky when sunlight hits them. Forget it. You won't understand it anyway. It's called a rainbow." He Xiaoyu looked at Han Fei, her eyes glittering. "No, it's colorful divine light." Han Fei, you can create colorful divine light? Tell me honestly, did you see the sea god at the bottom of the ocean a month ago? Han Fei said, "Damn you." He Xiaoyu wanted to argue, but Han Fei suddenly interrupted her. "Look, a boat is coming." The fishing trial was almost over. When the passing boats saw Han Fei's boat, they all wanted to run away with their boats, but at this moment, a few boats came straight at them. Both Han Fei and He Xiaoyu were curious as to who was so courageous as to walk into the trap. Han Fei said, "Get ready. Let's loot them." He Xiaoyu nodded. "Okay." When the fishing boat approached, Han Fei saw Tang Ge, and Tang Ge saw Han Fei too. He Xiaoyu jumped to her feet and waved her hands. "Tang Ge, over here." When Tang Ge approached, he was dumbfounded to see the fishing boats. Han Fei, what? What's going on? Han Fei said, "Oh. I looted them." Tang Ge. Tang Ge raised his head in disbelief. "You looted them? I've only been away for 20 days, and you're telling me that you're capable of looting so many boats in the fishing trial?" He Xiaoyu snorted. "It's all because of the treasures you left." "Tang Ge, how many good things did you leave for him? It's only been a month, and he's already able to kill an inspector." "Did I leave a lot of things?" "No, what? An inspector? Who killed an inspector?" Han Fei almost wanted to stuff He Xiaoyu's big mouth into the fish cabin. "Damn it. You've just met, and you've exposed everything." Han Fei put his arm around Tang Ji's neck and pulled him aside. "Don't be surprised. I had other opportunities besides the things you left. When you weren't around, I was ambushed and stayed on the sea for 5 days and 5 nights. After that, I met a white-bearded old man who insisted on imparting a cultivation technique to me. I didn't want it, but he insisted. This is really..." Han Fei's words contained too much information, but Tang Ge simply skipped the so-called opportunities and asked angrily, "Who tried to ambush you?" Han Fei chuckled and said, "It's not a big deal for me. Don't forget that I told others that you left me a lot of treasures, which is why I was able to advance so quickly." Tang Ge nodded and said, "Okay, don't stand out too much. But killing an inspector is a big deal." "Why did you?" Han Fei said, "He must have been a traitor that the tigers planted among the inspectors. His level was not high, and I dragged him into the sea when he was unprepared. Then, he was trapped by the snake belt. So, I wasn't the one who killed him." Tang Ge was shocked. "You fell into the sea. Were you hurt?" Han Fei said, "I'm fine." Tang Ge said gloomily, "The tigers are truly bold. Don't worry. I'll teach them a lesson when we return." Han Fei said unconcernedly, "Forget it. I'll take care of it myself." "Right, are you at home tonight? If you are, I'll teach you the combat technique." In the clouds, Fang Zhe shook his head. "What white-bearded old man? What combat technique?" What could he possibly meet in a small place like the Heavenly Water Village? However, the young man must have had a fortuitous encounter to advance from a level 2 fisher to a level 7 fisher. But that was not a big deal. What was even more unbelievable was that someone once became a hidden fisher from a fisherman in the city. It was an indescribable sight. Han Fei said casually, "Let me tell you, this combat technique is called the Incomplete Monograph on 108 Ways of Body Polishing. What did you say?" Fang Zhe's sudden appearance gave all three of them a fright. He Xiaoyu was stunned and panicked. "Gee, Master Angel." Han Fei was much better than He Xiaoyu, but he pretended to be surprised and said respectfully, "It's an honor to meet you, Master Angel." Fang Zhe nodded and asked solemnly, "What's the name of the technique you mentioned just now?" Han Fei said, "The Incomplete Monograph on 108 Ways of Body Polishing." Fang Zhe said, "Tell me more about what happened to the old man that night." Han Fei made up a story. "I was cultivating that night and felt that I was about to make a breakthrough, but I felt that I was not there yet. Then, a white-bearded old man suddenly appeared in front of me and said that my body was too weak. So, he pressed his hand on my forehead and I learned it." Fang Zhe said, "Divine Enlightenment Technique, top-notch body tempering technique. You actually encountered a venerable realm powerhouse. Kid, your luck is truly 1 in a million." Han Fei asked in a daze, "How strong is a venerable expert? Is he as strong as Master Angel?" Fang Zhe chuckled. "You'd better not know about it at your level. All you need to know is that venerables are the top experts in the infinite ocean." "Right, did you say the incomplete monograph? This technique is incomplete." Han Fei said, "There are only 108 postures. It's extremely difficult to cultivate, but it's very effective." Fang Zhe said, "Of course. Tang Gu, let's stay in the Heavenly Water Village for a few more days. You must learn the Incomplete Monograph on 108 Ways of Body Polishing." Tang Gu hesitated. "Well, the Venerable taught Han Fei the technique. Would it be inappropriate for me to learn it rashly?" Fang Zhe said, "That's fine. The Venerable only taught him the most basic way to train his body. It's obvious that he gave it to him casually. If he learns all the techniques, we can't take them even if he gives them to us." Then, Fang Zhe looked at Han Fei up and down. Why would the Venerable give pointers to an ordinary fisherman? Could it be that there was some kind of unseen potential in this kid? Chapter 55. He Xiaoyu listened as if she were listening to a story, as if she had heard a shocking secret. Fang Zhe did not intend to come down, but now that he was here, it was not appropriate for him to not give the juniors a gift. He took out 2 crimson sea fruits casually and said, "Fine. It's fate that we've met. Consider these 2 cups of low-level spiritual fruits as a minor opportunity." He Xiaoyu accepted them in a daze. They were crimson sea fruits that only the village leader could enjoy, and the angel had given them to her casually. Han Fei, on the other hand, was stunned. Han Fei was stunned for a moment. He lowered his head, rolled his eyes, took a deep breath, and said, "Master Angel, I wonder if I have a presumptuous request." Han Fei did not take the crimson sea fruits, which surprised Fang Zhe. Could a regular villager resist the temptation of the crimson sea fruits? Even though it was a spiritual fruit of the lowest level, it was not something that they could resist. Even Tang Gu was too shocked to say anything when he saw the crimson sea fruits for the first time. Fang Zhe said, "Oh. Then what do you want? Although you and Tang Gu are brothers, I won't take the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing for nothing." Han Fei said, "Lord Angel, can you give me a boat? Regular boats are not sturdy and can't be used in battles. I'm afraid that I'll have to stay here for a long time, so a good boat is much more useful than a spiritual fruit." Fang Zhe smiled and said, "It's indeed interesting. You're quite smart. Do you know that a good boat is much more important than a spiritual fruit?" "Huh?" Han Fei pretended to be surprised. Fang Zhe raised his hand and said, "Fine, I'll give you a boat." Feng Zhe waved his hand, and a white boat appeared on the surface of the sea. It was much more streamlined and beautiful than the boats that they were on. What Han Fei paid most attention to was not the boat, but the way it appeared. Was this the so-called mustard seed universe? He wondered if it was the same as Forge the Universe. Feng Zhe said, "Okay, your trial is about to end. Go." After that, Feng Zhe disappeared in the blink of an eye. Soon after Feng Zhe left, the village leader's voice echoed in the sky, "I hereby announce that the fishing trial is over. Everybody stay where you are and do not move. I will be inspecting from the sky. If there are any abnormal movements, the results will be invalidated." All the patrollers were mobilized. Parents started to enter, but only a few of them could enter to see the results. About half an hour later, an inspector came. Han Fei recognized the inspector. "Isn't he Mr. Zhou Ding from the southern campus? Last time, he was dragged out of the southern campus by this teacher." Zhou Ding was stunned when he saw the dozens of fishing boats. Which school's heavenly talent are they from? But when he saw Han Fei and He Xiaoyu, he exclaimed, "It's you too. Nice to meet you, Miss Zhou." He Xiaoyu said, "Nice to meet you, Miss Zhou." Tang Gu said, "Nice to meet you, Miss Zhou." Zhou Ding asked, "You are Tang Gu?" Seeing Tang Gu here, he was not surprised that there were so many fishing boats here. This was the angel's disciple. As long as he wanted to, he could rob everyone here. Would anyone dare to stop him? Of the 10,000 fishing boats that participated in the competition, less than 3,000 were left. At this moment, 3,000 fishing boats were gathered. All the boats were loaded with fish. All the staff of the port had been summoned to count them. Now and then, someone's score was reported. Zhou Cheng, total score, 481 points. Ding Dayu, total score, 389 points. Su Erling, total score, 501 points. Whenever someone had more than 500 points, everybody would cheer, because they thought that it wouldn't be a problem for them to make it to the top 1,000. Suddenly, a staff member exclaimed, "Wang Baiyu, total score, 4,982 points." Wow, the whole audience was in an uproar. Many fishing masters were shocked. The third son of the Wang family almost got 5,000 points. What a genius! A parent exclaimed, "Is there even a need to look? She's definitely in second place." A parent said enviously, "I'm told that the top 3 will be rewarded with spirit concentration art. It must be a very powerful battle technique." A parent mocked, "What do you know? Is spirit concentration art a battle technique? It's a great profession." People in the town call the fishing masters who learn spirit concentration art spirit gatherers. Some parents even said with mixed feelings, Wang Baiyu is the best, Han Fei, Tang Gu, and He Xiaoyu were waiting for their scores to be counted. Tang Gu was the first to line up. When the staff saw the row of fishing boats, they were all dumbfounded. "Are they all Tang Ji's?" Tang Gu pointed and said, this one, and that one. 5 boats in total. They're all mine." Whew, many people heaved a long sigh of relief. They were almost scared. They thought that these were all Tang Ji's. Soon, a staff member exclaimed again, "Tang Gu, Tang Ji's total score, 5,882 points." The parents exclaimed again, as expected of the angel's disciple. He's easily surpassed the third son of the Wang family by almost 1,000 points. Someone shook his head. It's more than 1,000 points. How could Wang Baiyu get 5,000 points if his family didn't arrange someone else to help him? The parents would only talk about it, and the teachers would compare themselves with each other. Wang Jia, as Tang Ji's teacher, was glowing. That was his student. It seemed that the first place was in the bag. Nobody thought that the angel took action. Such a small scene was not worth it at all. If the angel took action, he could easily get 50,000 points. On the other side, He Xiaoyu was taken to be counted too. He Mingtang had been paying attention to this side. When he saw that He Xiaoyu came back with Tang Gu and Han Fei, he knew that the score couldn't be bad. He couldn't help but smile when he saw the 3 fishing boats behind He Xiaoyu. However, before He Xiaoyu was weighed, a staff member shouted, "Hu Kuan, 1,299 points." Hu Kuan was thrilled. The past 6 hours had been a close shave for him. Even though he had reached level 7, he was almost killed several times. When he heard the score, he knew that he had a chance to be in the top 100. Unexpectedly, he saw He Xiaoyu the moment he finished counting. When he saw the 3 fishing boats behind He Xiaoyu, his face changed. Why didn't Li Hu catch her? A moment later, the staff member said in shock, "He Xiaoyu, total score, 3,012 points." Ha ha ha, He Mingtang couldn't help but laugh. He was too excited to control himself. Next to him, a teacher complimented, "Old He, you've got a good daughter. Mr. He, your son Xiaoyu has a chance to be a great fishing master. Mr. He, although my son's score is not high, he is handsome and behaves like a noble. Why don't you think about it?" He Mingtang couldn't listen to those words at all. He thought to himself, "Your son looks like a big yellow fish when he grows up. How dare he say that he's handsome and wants my beloved daughter?" At this moment, the parents all praised He Xiaoyu for her beauty when they saw her. Some people even secretly noted it down and planned to let their sons try to woo her. Hu Kun was stunned. 3,012 points was a slap in the face. He was hoping that He Xiaoyu would be robbed by Li Hu, but how did she get 3,012 points? Could it be that He Xiaoyu was better than him? After He Xiaoyu finished, Hu Kun saw Han Fei and immediately felt uncomfortable. He saw the dense fishing boats behind Han Fei. On the other side, Han Fei finally had someone to count his score. The staff said, "You're Han Fei, right? Which one is your fishing boat?" Han Fei said, "These are all mine." The staff stared at Han Fei. "What? What did you say? These are all yours?" Han Fei nodded. "Yes. They're all mine." The staff circled the fishing boats in disbelief and asked again, "Are they really all yours?" Han Fei said, "There are so many teachers here. Why would I lie to you?" Han Fei had a total of 21 fishing boats. It was no wonder that the staff didn't believe him. No one would believe him. When they were counting, a staff opened the fish cabin of a certain fishing boat, only to be shocked. All the boats were blade fish, not a single green turtle. The staff was dumbfounded. "Are you kidding me?" Only Han Fei knew that there were 4 boats that mainly contained blade fish, but even so, it was still a lot. A moment later, when Han Fei's score came out, a staff exclaimed in shock. Everybody looked at the staff, only to see her stammering while holding her notebook. Han Fei. Total score. 13,208 points. Chapter 56. Silence. Everybody was quiet. Originally, everyone was still chatting in full swing, but when the score came out, everyone's voices disappeared. The teachers and staff were all dumbfounded. The principal, the village leader, and Han Fei's teacher, Wang Jia, were all dumbfounded. Only Tang Gu was smiling, and Han Fei scratched his head. It seemed that the atmosphere was rather awkward. "It's impossible. He cheated." At this moment, Hu Kun grew excited. He was truly shocked by the number. He couldn't have gotten such a number even if his score was 10 times higher. The only thing he could think of was that Han Fei cheated. Otherwise, how could he have gotten such a high score? Han Fei narrowed his eyes and looked at him. "Young man, you have to be responsible for your words." At this moment, the village leader stood out too. "Young man, you do have to be responsible for your words. Do you have any proof that Han Fei cheated?" Of course, Hu Kun did not have any proof, but he suddenly thought of something and said, "It must be Tang Gu." Han Fei and Tang Gu are good friends. Tang Gu must have given his points to Han Fei. Otherwise, how could he have gotten so many points? Humph, at this moment, Tang Gu stood out and said, Hu Kun, don't be ridiculous. I didn't give Han Fei any points. He earned those points on his own. Hu Kun said excitedly, nonsense. He was a level 2 fisher a month ago. How could he have earned more than 10,000 points in the fishing trial in only 1 month? Do you believe it? The village leader and the others all looked at Han Fei, wondering what was going on. He was still a level 2 fisher a month ago, but he didn't seem to be one anymore. He seemed to be at least a level 7 fisher. Han Fei, however, was not bothered. Hu Kun, everybody has their own opportunities. I've been through life and death situations multiple times. Shouldn't I deserve some opportunities? You, on the other hand, are too narrow-minded to be ranked in the top 10 with more than 1,000 points. Why are you mocking me? Tell me, are you jealous of me, envious of me, or do you hate me? At this moment, a parent shouted, Young man, why don't you tell us how you got your points? That's right. It's not a problem to tell us how you got them, is it? How many people did you rob to get so many points? For a moment, countless people opened their mouths. Some people really wanted to know, while others just wanted to watch the show. The village chief berated, Quiet, all the parents shut up, the trial statistics haven't ended yet. Finally, the noise died down. The village leader looked at Han Fei awkwardly. Student Han Fei, right? You can tell me, and I guarantee that no one will cause trouble for you. Han Fei asked, Mr. Village Leader, does your promise count? The village chief's face immediately turned red. What do you mean by my promise? Can you remove the word will? Village chief, of course it is. Just say it, no one will cause trouble for you. Here's what happened. I didn't want to fight for it, so I just wanted to be a quiet, handsome man. But a lot of people wanted to snatch me. Among them were Li Hu, Xia Wushuang, and some students I didn't know. Well, so I snatched them. At this moment, Han Fei finally bared his fangs. It was just a village. What ordinary people regarded as heavenly talents was nothing in the eyes of the big shots. But if he was not even a heavenly talent in the village, how could he make a name for himself? So, he thought it was time to show his strength. What? You snatched Li Hu's boat? Huh? I saw Xia Wushuang come back injured. Did he snatch it? That's impossible. Li Hu is a level 8 fisher. Xia Wushuang has a level 4, low-quality spiritual heritage. How could he beat him? The crowd whispered to each other. Many people didn't believe it. Hu Kun was still scolding, speaking of which, Li Hu and Xia Wushuang are both level 8 fishers. How could you snatch their boats? Han Fei looked at him with pity in his eyes. Is that so strange? Because they can't beat me. Or should I ask them to say it themselves? It was a pity that neither Li Hu nor Xia Wushuang could stand out at this moment. Li Ju, who was among the parents, was clenching his fists so hard that he almost couldn't hold back his anger. His son was almost crippled, but he couldn't be angry. He even had to thank Han Fei for not killing him. Not just that, he had to find a way to compensate Han Fei so that Han Fei would stop pursuing the inspector. Xia Wushuang was even more proud. Apart from Tang Gu, his spiritual heritage was the highest in the entire Heavenly Water Village, so he should be the strongest one apart from Tang Gu. Unfortunately, in the end, he was defeated by a nobody. Was he going to go out and embarrass himself? Han Fei looked at the staff and asked, Can my points be confirmed? The staff looked at the village leader and nodded. Student Han Fei's total points are 13,208. If you don't accept it, you can come and investigate it, but don't interfere with the subsequent points calculation. However, Han Fei didn't intend to leave but asked the staff in a low voice, Hello, can I take my fish away? The staff was stunned for a moment. We provide recycling services. Otherwise, it won't be easy to take the dozens of boats. Han Fei nodded. Of course. I'll take them back myself. The points were calculated very quickly. It was done before the sun completely set. The village leader stood on the boat in midair with a list in his hand. The village leader announced, I'll announce the result of this fishing trial. First place, Han Fei, total points, 13,208. Second place, Tang Gu, total points, 5,882. Third place, Wang Baiyu, total points, 4,982. Fourth place, Xiang Nan, total points, 4,356. Seventh place, He Xiaoyu, total points, 3,012. 10th place, Chen Qing, total points, 2,222. Once the top 10 were over, the points at the bottom began to drop drastically, from the 11th place's 1,800 points to the 100th place's 1,120 points. Hu Kun was ranked 86th, which was not a bad result. However, it was still not good enough compared to the top 10. The final result was that the 1,000th had 496 points. Some were happy, and some were sad. The top 1,000 students were happy, but what the village leader said next shocked many people. The village leader said, Dear students, I believe that you've realized the cruelty of the fishing trial. This is a microcosm of the real world. Such things happen every day in the level 1 and level 2 fisheries. Many students fell silent, and so did their parents. Many parents were silent since the beginning, because they couldn't find their children. The village leader shouted, Do you know the casualties in this fishing trial? According to the statistics of the inspectors, there were 13,564 students in the fishing trial, but only 1,0321 of them made it back. That's 3,243. Almost 25% of the students were buried in the sea forever. Everybody was shocked, including Han Fei himself. He knew that there were casualties, which could be seen from the fact that the boats he robbed were empty. Many people on those boats had been killed. He Xiaoyu also said that Li Hu had killed people. And those who were originally in an alliance were the main source of the students who had died this time. The village leader was moved. Reality is cruel. There were 2,982 boats that participated in the fishing trial from beginning to end. According to the final statistics, 5,000 people were injured in the trial, and some were even permanently disabled. I'm telling you this not to frighten you, but to let you know that this is a man-eating ocean. If you don't want to be abandoned and perish, you must work hard. As long as you are alive, there will be hope for your life. Han Fei was silent after hearing the data. This was just a fishing trial in the village, and the casualty rate was already so high. What about the towns? What about the cities? He realized the cruelty of this world, or to be more exact, the cruelty of cultivation for the first time. One out of hundreds of ordinary people could become a fishing master, but could one out of hundreds of fishing masters become a great fishing master? How many great fishing masters would it take to become a dangling fisher like He Xiaoyu? How many people's bones would one have to step on to become a hidden fisher like Fang Zhe? Han Fei looked at the parents. None of them were smiling anymore. Some were crying, and some were comforting their children. Han Fei took a deep breath. This was a fight against fate, against fate, against fate, against fate. Chapter 57. When Han Fei returned to the floating island, the first thing he did was to ask Li Gang to make barbecue. In the evening. In the East Market, thousands of people gathered around the barbecue stand. Li Gang was sweating all over. He shouted while barbecuing, Don't worry. Everything will be half price for the next 3 days. You can come anytime. Li Gang was so busy that he didn't even have time to drink water, but he was overjoyed. This was life. When he was a gangster in the Tigers, he was hated by others every time he collected protection fees. But now, the barbecue he grilled was in short supply, and many people were scrambling to throw money into his hands. In the market, Li Gang and his wife were busy. On the cliff of Han Fei's house, Han Fei, Tang Gu, and He Xiaoyu were eating barbecue. The three of them had a headache thinking about what to do with the production of dozens of fishing boats. This was enough to hit the seafood market. Every year after the fishing trial, the price of fish in the floating island market would plummet, and it was the same now. He Xiaoyu's 3 fishing boats were taken away by He Mingtang, and Han Fei's 5 fishing boats were given to Han Fei. So Han Fei had 26 fishing boats. After sorting out the empty ones, there were only 15 full fishing boats left. Even if he gave Li Gang 3 full fishing boats, he still had 12 full fishing boats that had nowhere to put them. Tang Gu ate the garlic prawns in his hand. Delicious, so delicious. Let's barbecue all the fish. We can sell them for a lot of money. Han Fei said, that's too much. The 3 of us have more than 10,000 caddies of fish. That must be hundreds of thousands of caddies, right? He Xiaoyu said, according to the current weather, the live fish can only last 1 day. Otherwise, they will die and stink. Tang Gu asked, then should we sell them? Han Fei thought for a long time and said slowly, we took them from the sea and returned them to the sea. Why don't we throw them back into the sea? Throw them back. Tang Gu and He Xiaoyu looked at Han Fei as if he were an idiot. It had only been 2 days since he started to suffer, and he was already so arrogant. Han Fei said, look at our barbecue stall. At this speed, we can only use 1 boat of fish tonight. I'm afraid we can only use 1 more boat tomorrow. Seeing the weird expressions on their faces, Han Fei immediately made up some nonsense. Enlightenment? Where is enlightenment? We humans are constantly absorbing resources from the sea. If there comes a day when we can't use up the resources anymore, instead of waiting for them to rot, we might as well throw them back into the sea. At least they have their remaining value. Are we still going to deprive them of their value? Tang Gu scratched his head. Then why did you drag these fish back? Why don't you just sell it to the port? Han Fei bit off a prawn and said, the ocean is too lonely. I just want to take them for a ride in the sky. Tang Gu. He Xiaoyu. Then Han Fei jumped onto a fishing boat regardless of what the 2 of them thought. Yes, he had rented all the boats at the port and would return them when he was done with them. The boats were hanging near his home. He Xiaoyu pointed at Tang Gu and said in a low voice, have you noticed that, although he's making rapid progress, he's not very smart sometimes? Tang Gu said unhappily, you're the one who's not smart. How can you grow so fast and win the favor of a venerable if you're not smart? He Xiaoyu scoffed. Hee, that's true. I always feel that he's changed after he was pulled out of the water last time. Tang Gu was deep in thought too. Was this Han Fei's true nature? Suddenly, He Xiaoyu mumbled, do you think this Han Fei was transformed from a fish? According to the legends, there are fish that can turn into human beings in the distant unknown place. Tang Gu snorted and looked at He Xiaoyu speechlessly. I don't think there's anything wrong with my brother, but there's something wrong with your head. At this moment, Han Fei was already throwing the fish one by one. Every time he did so, he would put on a happy smile. Tang Gu and He Xiaoyu were both dumbfounded. He Xiaoyu said, let me help you. Don't move. Han Fei pointed at He Xiaoyu who was about to jump down and yelled, you're a girl. Why are you doing hard work? Sit down and enjoy the barbecue. Tang Gu chuckled. I'll help you. Don't move either. Tang Gu. Han Fei rolled his eyes. Fine, wait for me. Throwing the fish is not urgent. I'll teach you the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing. He Xiaoyu pouted. Okay. I'm going back. Han Fei asked, why are you going back? Let's learn it together. Huh? He Xiaoyu looked at Han Fei in shock. Is that true? I can learn it too. Han Fei waved his hand generously and said, I don't have many friends in recent years. You're the only one I have except for Tang Gu. How can I forget you when something good happens? Han Fei murmured as he climbed the cliff, I won't tell you that I'm only teaching you because I don't want you to throw my fish. He Xiaoyu was very excited. According to Fang Zhe, it was a top battle technique that only the legendary venerables were capable of. As for what the venerables were, they were very powerful. Tang Ge was the same. He once thought that Han Fei would be doomed, and he even thought that Han Fei would be in great danger in the fishing trial, but at this moment, Han Fei began to teach him combat skills. Han Fei said, stand still and watch my movements. Try not to make any mistakes. Tang Ge nodded. Okay. He Xiaoyu nodded. No problem. As a result, the first movement was to lean back with one hand on the ground and the other hand on the feet. Han Fei did it easily. Tang Ge blushed and thought that it was a bit difficult. He Xiaoyu simply fell asleep on the ground. Han Fei asked, He Xiaoyu, can you do it? A girl's body is softer than a boy's. Why are you sleeping on the ground? He Xiaoyu said, it's so difficult. Han Fei asked, then do you want to learn it? He Xiaoyu nodded like a chick pecking rice. Yes. 1, 2, 3. Han Fei taught them 18 movements in a row. Both Tang Ge and He Xiaoyu were sweating hard by the 8th movement, and they almost collapsed to the ground after the 18th. Han Fei was confused. Although it was difficult for him to practice it, he was able to complete 36 movements, which was a minor circulation. Was it because he didn't teach them well? In the sky, Fang Zhe witnessed the whole scene and nodded now and then. It was indeed a top battle technique. Every movement mobilized all the muscles of the human body. If they practiced it for a long time, the human body might be able to complete many movements that others couldn't. He wondered if he should learn it as well. Forget it. It doesn't matter if the juniors learn it, but if I learn it, Tang Ge and He Xiaoyu were covered in sweat and breathless as if they had just been fished out of water. After they slowly sat down, Tang Ge suddenly sensed something. Huh. I feel that the upper limit of spiritual energy in my body has increased. He Xiaoyu asked, really? Ah. It's true. The two of them were about to tell Han Fei the good news, only to find that Han Fei had disappeared. They went to the edge of the cliff, only to find that Han Fei had begun to throw the fish diligently, humming as he threw them, and couldn't help smiling. Seeing their heads sticking out, Han Fei said angrily, you're going to stop now. You can't stop until tomorrow morning. Huh? He Xiaoyu was horrified. She felt that the world was collapsing after she just finished the 18 movements, but Han Fei was telling her that he had to practice until tomorrow morning. Was he crazy? Tang Ji's lips twitched too, wondering if he was capable of continuing the practice. Suddenly, Han Fei slapped his forehead and said, Hey! Tang Ge, I have the iron fish body polishing fluid. I forgot to tell you. Take a little, and then you won't feel anything when you practice. I practiced it for 3 days and 3 nights. Immediately, Tang Ge was refreshed and looked at Han Fei in shock. It was very difficult to complete the extremely difficult movement just now, but Han Fei practiced for 3 days and 3 nights. Furthermore, Han Fei was not only practicing these 18 movements, there were 108 postures in the set. Immediately, Tang Ge said from his throat, He Xiaoyu, let's go and practice. While Han Fei was tossing fish and Tang Ge and He Xiaoyu were practicing, He Mingtang came to Han Fei's house aggressively. He Mingtang's face was gloomy. Yes, you helped my daughter in the fishing trial, but it doesn't mean you can abduct her. But look, now this girl has learned to stay out at night. When He Mingtang was about to approach Han Fei's house, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him, giving him a fright. He was dumbfounded when he took a closer look. Lord Angel. Fang Zhe asked, Who are you? Why are you here? He Mingtang hurried to reply, Lord Angel, I'm here for my daughter. Tomorrow is the day of the awakening, but my daughter hasn't returned yet, so I'm here to look for her. Fang Zhe said casually, You mean the girl named He Xiaoyu? He Mingtang nodded quickly. He Xiaoyu was indeed at Han Fei's house. Feng Zhe waved his hand and said, "Go back. He Xiaoyu has received an opportunity and is practicing an ultimate combat skill. She will go there tomorrow." Huh? An ultimate combat skill? Yes, I'll take my leave. He Mingtang was shocked. An ultimate combat skill from the mouth of an angel? His daughter was awesome. Immediately, his anger was gone. He looked back with a smile as he walked. Chapter Error. Chapter 58. Han Fei's hands were sore after throwing fish for a whole night. However, when he looked at his own data, he immediately beamed with joy. Owner Han Fei Level 7, Advanced Fisher, Spiritual Energy as Spiritual Heritage Level 2, Low Quality, Upgradable, Weapon a Purple Bamboo Rod Main Art Avoid Fishing, Chapter 1, Hook Kiss, Mortal Level, Divine Quality. He had spent a lot of spiritual energy in the fishing trial, both fishing and fighting. As a result, he had less than 27,000 points of spiritual energy left after the trial. But now, he had earned 10,000 points back in the blink of an eye. Not bad. Seeing that it was going to be dawn in less than 2 hours, Han Fei wondered if he should upgrade the level of his spiritual heritage. If spiritual awakening was really related to one's own potential, the level of the spiritual heritage must be very important. Although he knew that Feng Zhe was around, what if he couldn't find him? After thinking for a long time, Han Fei decided to give it a try. He dared to take the gamble because he didn't think that Feng Zhe was as important as people thought. The Heavenly Water Village was just a small village. There were towns and cities above it. If Feng Zhe was here to host the spiritual awakening, did it mean that all the other villages and towns were hosted by similar experts? Even if Feng Zhe noticed something wrong, Han Fei could fool him with a story. Even if he couldn't, Feng Zhe wouldn't necessarily do anything to him. Thinking about that, Han Fei climbed the cliff. But the moment he reached it, he saw Feng Zhe sitting on the roof of his house with barbecue and liquor in his hand. Seeing Han Fei, he said casually, "This food is really good. I didn't expect the lowest level spiritual fruit to be so delicious. Also, how was the liquor made? Tell me the principle later." Han Fei scratched his head. His plan to improve the level of his spiritual heritage was immediately gone. How could he improve his spiritual heritage when Feng Zhe was standing right in front of him? The demon purification pot couldn't be exposed no matter what. Han Fei hurried to say, "If you like it, I'll give you the method of barbecue later." Feng Zhe nodded and waved his hand, and a vintage jade pendant floated before Han Fei's eyes. Feng Zhe said, "I won't take advantage of you. I promised that the top 3 finishers of the fishing trial would receive the spirit concentration art. But since you won the first place and contributed the incomplete methods of 108 ways of body polishing, this spiritual book is for you, which contains many ways to practice as a spirit gatherer. As for how much you can achieve, it depends on your own efforts." Han Fei was shocked. From the spirit gathering art to the cultivation method of a spirit gatherer? Was it the path of a master like the armorist of the Wang family? "Thank you, Your Excellency." Feng Zhe ignored Han Fei, and Han Fei came to Tang Gu and He Xiaoyu. The two of them were not just sweating, but smoking from their cultivation. There was no telling what Feng Zhe had fed them. However, Han Fei could guess what it was because of the alluring fragrance around them. They must have just taken a spiritual fruit like the crimson sea fruit. Han Fei joined the cultivation too, but he did not ask Feng Zhe for the spiritual fruit. Exchanging spiritual fruits for a boat was a bargain in his eyes. In the morning, when the sun rose, the clear sky was crimson. Every time he saw such a scene, Han Fei felt that the world was too wonderful and fantastic. Kacha, He Xiaoyu, who was maintaining a weird posture, heard cracking noises from her body. She seemed to have broken a certain shackle, and abundant unknown materials popped up from her body. Marrow cleansing. Han Fei saw it at a glance. He was in the same situation. Last time, he upgraded his technique and the effect was better. The surface of his body was all sticky. He Xiaoyu had only taken one spiritual fruit. The effect was probably not as good as his. I'm level 8 now. Bim, He Xiaoyu simply lay on the ground. She was too tired. Practicing the 18 movements overnight was too exhausting for a little girl who had never suffered so much. Tang Gu, on the other hand, did not rise until he finished the last movement. Awesome. Tang Gu grinned and said, I feel that the upper limit of my spiritual energy has increased by at least 30 points. This incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body conditioning is so awesome. Han Fei was dumbfounded. How much did you increase? Tang Gu said, 30 points. Didn't you? Han Fei was lost for words. He did not want to talk to Tang Gu. Was this the so-called genius with a level 7 spiritual heritage? I've only gained a dozen or so points after completing all 108 great circulatory cycle. As he expected, He Xiaoyu said enviously, so much? Why do I feel that I only gained about 10 points? Han Fei said gloomily, I gained even less. Ha ha ha, Fang Zhe appeared and laughed. This is the power of the spiritual heritage. A level 7 high-quality spiritual heritage is completely incomparable to a low-level spiritual heritage. Not bad. After you learn all the 108 movements, Tang Gu, you will probably be invincible on your level. Ha ha ha. Han Fei could see how happy Fang Zhe was. Perhaps after they returned to the city, Fang Zhe would be able to show off to the people who were sent out with him. What was the most sacred place on the floating island? Of course, it was the center of the floating island. Even the village leader was not qualified to live here. Even if it was a low-grade floating island, everyone would still show respect to the central part. It was the first time that Han Fei had come to the center of the floating island of the Heavenly Water Village. There was a stone statue of a woman, one of her hands raised high, holding a fishing rod in her hand. There were many tributes placed in front of the statue, which seemed to have just been placed there. Daughter. He Mingtang had been waiting here for a long time. He was relieved to see He Xiaoyu come with Han Fei and Tang Gu. He Mingtang looked at He Xiaoyu carefully and asked in shock, Daughter, have you become a level 8 fisher? He Xiaoyu blushed slightly. Dad, don't ask so many questions. He Mingtang nodded. Yes, I won't ask. Just keep it to yourself. Don't tell me. He Mingtang was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. It seemed that hanging out with Han Fei and the others was also beneficial. He thought that even Han Fei was just a bonus. Lord Angel must have felt that they were good friends with Tang Gu, so he gave them the ultimate combat skill. He Mingtang said, Okay, the three of you, go in and worship the sea god, and then join the team. You will be the first to start the awakening. Don't slack off. Han Fei was stunned. Isn't the sea god a man? He Mingtang's face darkened. Don't talk nonsense. Don't say such absurd words when worshipping the sea god. Han Fei muttered, the sea god in my hometown is a big beard and holds a trident in his hand, which is much better than this. This thing, holding a fishing rod, immediately lowers the level. There were no rules for worshipping the sea god. Han Fei took out his own fishing rod, leaned his head against the fishing rod, and muttered. He didn't know what he was saying, but it should be praying. After worshipping the sea god, the three of them entered the inner circle of the center, behind the sea god statue. This was a pit with a radius of about 200 meters, but the bottom was flat, with many complicated patterns carved on it. It looked like a gorgeous swimming pool. Around the large pool, there were rows of steps, just like the steps outside the stadium. At this moment, the steps were filled with people, and it could be said to be a sea of people. Many people would come to watch the annual event. Some came to see their children, and some came to watch the fun. At this moment, Han Fei and the others were led to the back of the sea god statue, where there were steps leading to the pool. At this moment, Han Fei saw Wang Baiyu, Xiang Nan, Chen Qing, and a few others he didn't know, but they all nodded at each other. After all, since they had entered the top 10 circle, it meant that these children were not ordinary. They were the 10 most outstanding teenagers on the floating island with a population of 600,000. Before the awakening began, someone was already shouting the names of the top 10. Tanggu, 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 Wang Baiyu, Wang Baiyu, Wang Baiyu, Xiang Nan, Xiang Nan, Xiang Nan. Waves of cheers rose and fell, one louder than the other. Of course, almost no one shouted for a dark horse like Han Fei, because they had just met him and didn't recognize him at all. But Tang Gu was different. His name had become a model for the Heavenly Water Village. Even He Xiaoyu had some people cheering for her. Among them, the most popular were Tang Gu, Wang Baiyu, and Xiang Nan. Han Fei. Suddenly, a loud roar made the atmosphere stagnate, and everyone looked at the person who shouted Han Fei. Chapter Error. Chapter 59. Looking at the source of the voice, everyone saw Xia Wushuang, who was supposed to be in the top 10, sitting in the auditorium with his hands dangling. This guy seemed to not see the faces of other audience members and continued to shout, Han Fei. The scene was weird. Only Xia Wushuang shouted Han Fei twice. Good job. Suddenly, there was another explosion. Everyone looked at the source of the sound, only to see Han Fei raising his hand and waving at the auditorium. Everyone next to Fei, He Xiaoyu, Wang Baiyu, and the others were dumbfounded. Are we not ashamed? Xia Wushuang clenched his fists. He knew that everyone had underestimated Han Fei. He had personally experienced that kind of power that shouldn't be possessed by a student of the fishing trial at all. It was simply terrifying. Han Fei said, "Look, the eyes of the people are clear." He Xiaoyu said, "Maybe he's blind." Why didn't anyone shout my name? Han Fei said, "They are preparing to introduce their sons to you secretly. If they shout your name now, they will create a competitor." Bah, you are the worst. Tang Gu said, "It's actually not good to be called by my name. I don't know them." Han Fei said, "It means that you are popular. You are a role model." Tang Gu said, "I think you can also be a role model." He Xiaoyu said, "I can be a role model for girls. There is only one girl in the top 10. Wang Baiyu listened to the conversation of the three of them and was a little helpless. Aren't you nervous? This is a natural awakening skill. It's related to the rest of your life. Wang Baiyu said, Han Fei, Tang Gu. Remember to walk to the center. There will be benefits if you walk to the center. Han Fei asked, "What's the big hole in the center for?" Wang Baiyu said, "That's where the spirit awakening fluid is sprayed out." Pooh, Han Fei almost choked, as if he had never seen this kind of thing before. Han Fei said, "Isn't there too much spirit awakening fluid? Such a big pool is enough for tens of thousands of people to bathe in." Wang Baiyu said, "Diluted spirit awakening fluid. Haven't you seen the previous natural awakening skills?" Han Fei immediately said, "Of course I have. I haven't tried it yet. Good heavens, if only I could bathe here every day." Everyone, after a while, all the students in the top 1,000 were in position. At this moment, village chief came to the front of everyone and shouted loudly, "Everyone, be quiet. This year, the activation of the innate talent is about to begin. The rules are the same as the previous years. The top 10 will enter the pool first. 1 hour later, the top 100 will enter the pool. 2 hours later, everyone else will enter the pool. All spirit awakeners, once your spiritual beasts awaken, leave the pool immediately. No one is allowed to stay." Holding the list, the village leader read, "Now, let Han Fei, Tang Gu, Wang Baiyu, He Xiaoyu, Jia Tong, Li Yuanyuan, and Chen Qing enter the pool." Everyone was excited and took the lead to walk down the stairs. The students behind them were extremely envious. This was the difference in treatment between the top few. Because these few people might be the most talented, they could enjoy the best resources. Next would be the top 100. The rest might not have much difference in talent, so they might as well enter the pool at the same time. At this moment, there was no so-called spirit awakening fluid in the pool, so they all walked to the center. They spread out and sat down about 10 meters away from the big hole. He Xiaoyu and Tang Ge sat on Han Fei's left and right, about 5 meters away from each other. He Xiaoyu asked, Han Fei, what do you think my spiritual beast is? I'm so excited, so excited. Han Fei thought for a moment. I've only seen Mr. Wang Jie's big crab since I came to this world. Li Hu's shouldn't be counted as a spiritual beast. So Han Fei said, it may be a crab. That's too ugly. I don't want a crab. Spiritual beasts are not necessarily from ordinary fisheries. Many people's spiritual beasts are unheard of. Some people even awaken corals. Han Fei asked, what? Corals are beasts? He Xiaoyu said, I don't know. I don't think so. But it seems that those who awaken corals are particularly good at defense. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. Han Fei looked at He Xiaoyu speechlessly. He felt that it was good enough to have a true spiritual beast. Why would he be picky? But Han Fei was also curious. This thing was like opening a treasure chest. The treasure was a creature in the sea, and the way of drawing was completely random. Wang Baiyu said, most people's spiritual beasts are familiar to us, but exotic spiritual beasts are not bad. Hula, as soon as Wang Baiyu said that, a pillar of water spurted out. Tang Ge said, calm down. Don't be distracted. The water came out very quickly. In a short while, the 200 meters wide pool was covered with a small layer of water. A moment later, the water had already reached everyone's chest. At this time, a green liquid came out from the big hole, instantly dyeing the entire pool green. Then, the water had already reached their chins. Tang Ge said, hold your breath. Han Fei took a deep breath. Not long after that, the water in the pool had already reached their heads. Everybody seemed to be fixed at the bottom of the water. Han Fei looked at Tang Ge and He Xiaoyu, only to find that both of them had their eyes closed, and so did the others. So, Han Fei closed his eyes too. The moment he closed his eyes, Han Fei suddenly felt that he had entered a wonderful state, as if he had entered a vast ocean. The gentle waves washed his body, and his mind was drifting. If he had to describe it, it would be like someone was caressing him with an extremely warm hand, which was very comfortable. In his mind, it was a dark world. There seemed to be countless twinkling stars around and far away, and these stars seemed to be pouring into his body crazily. After a long time, when the twinkling stars disappeared, Han Fei seemed to be in a complicated tube, and his body seemed to be shuttling like a beam of light. Until he saw a sea. Han Fei couldn't see what was in the sea. He felt that the water was very clear, but there seemed to be a film between the water and him that he couldn't penetrate. Suddenly, Han Fei saw a small calabash in front of him. Han Fei was shocked. Why are you everywhere? I'm in the middle of an awakening. Why are you here? But the demon purification pot ignored him and slowly began to revolve on its own. Han Fei sensed that a lot of fish swarmed the moment the demon purification pot appeared. But those fish couldn't penetrate the film, so the fish in front of the film kept changing and hitting the film. Outside, half an hour had passed. Suddenly, the surface of the water moved, and someone exclaimed, it's here. It's Qin Qing. Voila, Qin Qing's body suddenly shivered, and a fish as long as a sword appeared next to him and began to swim around him. Someone sighed. It's a swordfish. It's the most aggressive fish in the level 1 fishery, but it's too common. Someone retorted, what do you know? It's still a fish from the level 1 fishery no matter how common it is. Most people's fish are from the general fishery. The village leader glanced at the swordfish and slightly shook his head. Swordfish were too common. Too many people in the town had swordfish as their spiritual beasts. They were completely unremarkable. Then, there was another movement from the bottom of the pool. This time, it was Li Yuanyuan, and a meat turtle appeared next to him. Immediately, the audience burst into an uproar. Someone exclaimed, "A meat turtle! A meat turtle has appeared this year." Li Yuanyuan's father stood up in excitement. What did a meat turtle mean? It meant super high defense. With such a spiritual beast, his son wouldn't have to worry about dying in the general fishery or the level 1 fishery anymore. The village leader secretly nodded. Li Yuanyuan was worth training in the future. Then, a big green crab appeared next to Jia Tong, just like Wang Jie's crab. Unfortunately, the quality of the big green crab was not as high as Wang Jie's. Wang Jie's spiritual beast was a sapphire crab that could only be found in the level 1 fishery. Jia Tong's was just a big green crab from the general fishery. It was obvious which one was better. But the audience didn't care. Someone even said enviously, "This crab can attack and defend. It's not bad at all." At this moment, He Mingtang was the most anxious one. Generally speaking, the longer one persisted, the stronger their spiritual beasts would be. The last 3 contestants had appeared. He wondered what his daughter's spiritual beast was. To He Mingtang's surprise, Zhang Cheng, a student from the southern campus who ranked 6th, was the first to get an ironhead fish. He Mingtang was overjoyed. He thought that his daughter must have waited longer because she was more talented than those people. However, the ironhead fish also attracted a lot of cheers. Although everyone was talking about the ironhead fish here and there, the ironhead fish still attracted a lot of applause. This fish was as tough as iron, and its defense was not much weaker than the meat turtles. The 5th contestant got a swordfish. The 4th contestant and Xiang Nan got the first exotic fish, a ball fish, which was also the most common one. This meant that Xiang Nan would have extremely high attack power in the future. Even in the town, there weren't many youths who could get a ball fish. Suddenly, there was an anomaly underwater from He Xiaoyu. Chapter Error. Chapter 60. He Mingtang was so excited that his forehead was covered with sweat. Wang Jie said, "Don't be excited. Xiaoyu has persisted until now, so the spiritual beast she awakens can only be better than the previous ones." He Mingtang nodded. "Yes, it must be so." Putong, village chief shouted, "Mutant fish, mutant fish." All the audience stood up and looked at the fish in red, black, and white. They exclaimed, "I've never seen such a fish before. But it's so beautiful." He Mingtang burst into tears of excitement. "Exotic, it's an exotic fish. Ha ha ha. Our He family has an exotic spiritual beast." The village leader was also quite excited. How long had it been since an exotic spiritual beast appeared in the village? He couldn't remember. It had been at least decades. If Han Fei's eyes were open at this moment, he would have complained that so many people didn't even know what a clownfish was. At this moment, many people looked up at the sky, wondering if Fang Zhe knew what kind of fish it was. As everyone expected, Fang Zhe stood in the air and looked at the clownfish next to He Xiaoyu. This is a cardinal fish, also known as sea anemone fish. It is very territorial and aggressive and feeds on all kinds of sea anemones. It's very rare, but its growth ability is limited. If it can evolve into a black sparrow, this boy will be qualified to enter the city. The audience was in an uproar. Many people were shocked. Is it so advanced? It feeds on sea anemones and is even qualified to enter the city? Many teachers gathered around He Mingtang. "Mr. He, congratulations. You've given birth to an amazing daughter." He Mingtang said, "You flatter me. I was just lucky. Mr. He, I have a relative in the town. Can you think about it?" He Mingtang laughed. "Ha, my daughter is still young. When a lot of people congratulated He Mingtang, those who awakened their spiritual beasts before He Xiaoyu looked at He Xiaoyu enviously. At this moment, He Xiaoyu slowly opened her eyes, only to see a little fish whose front half was red, the back half was black, and there was a white mark on its head staring at her. She immediately narrowed her eyes into the shape of peach blossoms. Wow! So cute! So beautiful! Are you my spiritual beast? Let's swim around. The clownfish seemed to understand human nature and swam around He Xiaoyu at an extremely fast speed, which made He Xiaoyu very happy. The village leader said, "Cough, cough. Those who have already acquired spiritual beasts, come out." At this time, He Xiaoyu finally realized that there were still many people watching. She immediately followed her father's instructions, and the clownfish instantly rushed into the center of her eyebrows and disappeared. He Xiaoyu also looked at the bottom of the water, only to find that Han Fei and Tang Gu were still there. They must have survived longer than her, so they must have better spiritual beasts. Sigh. I don't think I've heard of this fish before. Let's go and ask. An hour was about to pass. Only Han Fei, Tang Gu, and Wang Baiyu were left in the water. At this moment, Wang Baiyu couldn't hold it anymore. There was an anomaly in the water, and then a green turtle with a high back appeared. Hiss, this is an armored tortoise. Someone was stunned. Any tortoise was extremely powerful. If the meat tortoise was invincible in the level 1 fishery, then the armored tortoise was close to the strongest defense in the level 1 or even level 2 fishery. It was close to invincible because of a legend that said there was another extremely rare tortoise in the level 1 fishery, which was the rock-holding tortoise. As the name suggested, the rock-holding tortoise would carry a stone on its back. It was said that the stone was embedded with a combat skill, but nobody had ever seen a rock-holding tortoise, so the armored tortoise was close to invincible. The ancestor of the Wang family was also watching. When he saw the armored tortoise, he nodded slightly. Good boy, as expected of the Wang family. If this armored tortoise can make further progress, it will become a dark armored tortoise. By then, the Wang family will have another awesome armorist. Wang Baiyu was slightly disappointed to see the armored tortoise after he woke up, but he still patted its shell. At this time, he subconsciously looked into the water, only to find that Han Fei and Tang Gu had not woken up yet. Half an hour had passed, and the green color in the pool slightly faded. The village leader continued to shout, "The top 100 will enter the pool." Walala, like a group of people going to a bathhouse, many people rushed to enter the water, fearing that they would absorb less spirit awakening fluid than others. But the audience did not pay attention to them at this moment but were all talking about Tang Gu and Han Fei. Someone said with a weird expression, "This Han Fei seems to be quite strong. Otherwise, how could he have stayed in the pool for so long?" Someone wondered, "Is he a genius who can rival Tang Gu?" Someone shook his head. "That's impossible. I'm told that Han Fei only had a level 1, high-quality spiritual heritage when he took the test. Maybe he just stayed in the pool for a long time." Suddenly, the center of the pool boiled, and a cluster of red flames suddenly rose. In the sky, Feng Zhe, who had been resting with his eyes closed, appeared behind the sea god's statue in the blink of an eye, his eyes enthusiastic. Pudong, a slender creature about half a meter in length, soared into the sky. This creature's entire body was fiery red, and its body was actually burning with dark red flames. There was only a white line running from its head to its tail. On its back, there were actually red and white bone wings. Looking at this creature again, it actually had a pair of large pincers. Everyone was dumbfounded, including the village leader. What was this? He Xiaoyu opened her mouth wide, and so did all the students who were waiting to enter the pool. This alien was too alien. The village leader did not know what it was at all. Anyway, he just called it alien. Tang Gu, Tang Gu, Tang Gu, everyone in the stands was excited. This scene was too miraculous. There were actually raging flames burning in the water. This was simply unheard of. Tang Gu woke up and subconsciously looked at Han Fei, only to find that Han Fei had not woken up yet, and there was no one around him. He smiled and surfaced. The first thing Tang Gu saw when he came out of the water was shrimp. This shrimp looked so strange. It was burning. Seeing that Tang Ge had woken up, Fang Zai's excited voice resounded throughout the audience. If my guess is correct, this is the legendary white dragon feather lobster. It is said that its pincers are as hard as divine iron. Unfortunately, I've never seen it. It's just my guess. You don't need to take it seriously. Fang Zai felt that this trip was totally worth it. He could almost predict that Tang Ge would rise in the city soon, and as Tang Ji's guide, his position would rise. The stronger Tang Ge was, the higher his position would be. Tang Ge murmured, "White dragon feather lobster. It's red. You're burning all over. How about I call you Little Fire?" The white dragon feather lobster crawled to Tang Ji's head and raised its pincers to grab the air. Tang Ge went ashore in everyone's envy and cheers. Fang Zai said, "Good, good, good. You've probably got a legendary shrimp-like spiritual beast." Although Tang Ge was excited, he still looked at the pool. Fang Zai said, "Since your little brother can stay here for so long, I don't think his spiritual beast is bad. Just wait." Everyone was looking forward to Han Fei's performance, but after a moment, the hundreds of students who came later all activated their spiritual beasts. Unfortunately, they were not good enough. The president shouted from time to time, "Chen Fei, awaken the blade fish spiritual beast. Qian Yu, awaken the green turtle spiritual beast. Sun Luoluo, awaken the blade fish spiritual beast." Han Fei was a little bored. He watched all kinds of marine creatures on the other side of the film change batch after batch. At first, all kinds of marine creatures came up to watch, but as time went by, there were fewer and fewer of them, but they were also more and more ferocious. He even saw a big fish bite a green crab to pieces with its mouth full of fangs, and then the big fish was pierced by an eel. Is it because my spiritual heritage is not high enough? Han Fei had an obsession. He could feel the surging water around him. He Xiaoyu and Tang Ge seemed to have finished. Didn't they say that the longer one stayed underwater, the higher one's potential would be? Calabash, can you upgrade my spiritual heritage? The demon purification pot ignored him and continued to wander around. Suddenly, Han Fei felt that his eyes were white. Through the film, he could vaguely see a gray, white, or black line. Anyway, it was a pure-colored fish. Huh? Why are you nodding? Where are the big lobsters, crabs, and turtles? Don't you think this little fish will be swallowed? But the moment the little fish appeared, the calabash began to spin crazily. The transparent film seemed to be about to be broken, and the little fish pushed the film with its head. Outside, a vortex suddenly appeared on Han Fei's body. Someone exclaimed, "It's coming, chapter error." Chapter 61. The audience was in an uproar and everyone was looking forward to what kind of spiritual beast the winner of the fishing trial would get. Someone said, "It should be an exotic fish." After all, there was a sound when it was opened. Someone nodded. "It should be." What kind of exotic fish do you think Han Fei will get? Someone guessed, "I don't think it will be better than Tang Ge." Someone denied, "Not necessarily. He stayed longer than Tang Ge." At this moment, Han Fei was a little excited. He felt that the thin film was about to break. Did this mean that his spiritual beast was this little fish? Chilla, suddenly, the thin film broke and he felt a flash of spiritual light rushing into the space between his eyebrows. However, to his astonishment, there seemed to be more than one beam of light. There seemed to be another. Outside, a pure white little fish suddenly appeared beside Han Fei and then began to wander around Han Fei. Spirit-swallowing fish? What? Just a spirit-swallowing fish? Are you kidding me? I thought it was an exotic fish. No way. He made such a big noise and only a spirit-swallowing fish came out. For a time, the stands were all talking and everyone seemed very puzzled. Suddenly, someone said, "No. This spirit-swallowing fish has long whiskers on its face, tail, and fins. It seems to be much better looking than ordinary spirit-swallowing fish. Someone with sharp eyes pointed at the head of the little white fish and said, "Look, there is a black spot on the head of this spirit-swallowing fish." Everyone immediately looked over and found that there was a round black spot on the fish's head. But what did this mean? It was still a fucking spirit-swallowing fish. Someone shook his head. This is too normal. I once caught a spirit-swallowing fish with 2 red fins. Isn't it still a spirit-swallowing fish? Someone agreed, yes, I also caught a spirit-swallowing fish with a long black tail. It's just a little mutated, but it's still a spirit-swallowing fish. The village leader glanced at it and was a little disappointed, but he still looked at Feng Zhe, hoping that Feng Zhe could give an answer. Han Fei and He Xiaoyu also looked at Feng Zhe expectantly. Feng Zhe shook his head. Maybe this spirit-swallowing fish has a little mutated, but it's not outstanding. Ordinary people don't understand, but even the worst exotic fish is much stronger than their ordinary spiritual beasts. It needs to be discovered by itself. Tangu asked, "Not bad?" Feng Zhe, "It's not good, but it's not as bad as it looks." Hearing Feng Zhe's words, some people were disappointed, some people's eyes lit up, and some people were disdainful. Of course, there were also many people who were envious, such as the students who were not in the top 1,000. Someone mocked, "Spirit-swallowing fish are useless. In terms of practicality, it's not as good as green turtles. At least green turtles are very hard. This spirit-swallowing fish can only be used to make soup." Someone tried to explain, "Actually, it's not bad. After all, it's an exotic fish. At least it has more spiritual energy than other fish, right?" Someone sneered, "Come on. Apart from its high spiritual energy, it could only be used to boil soup. Spirit-swallowing fish are the easiest to catch in the level 1 fishery. Otherwise, how could the 4 major schools have so much spirit-swallowing fish soup?" Han Fei opened his eyes and surfaced, only to see a beautiful white fish with a long whisker and a long tail, and a black dot on its forehead. Beside this small white fish was a small black fish with a long whisker and a long tail. There was a white dot on its forehead. A string of data appeared in front of him. Gifted spiritual beast in name Twin Yin-Yang spirit-swallowing fish. Introduction. This is a descendant of the mysterious ancient Yin-Yang sky-swallowing fish. The black and white fish live together. The white fish is docile, while the black fish is cruel. They are symbiotic. As long as one of them survives, the other will not die. Level 0 Equality. A mysterious storage of spiritual energy greater than 100 points. Food omnivorous, can swallow anything. Note, the black fish is invisible. Except for the owner, only the yin-yang divine eyes born by heaven and earth can see through it. Han Fei's eyes were dull. What kind of fish did I catch? Twin yin-yang sky-swallowing fish. The name sounds awesome, but what kind of mysterious fish is it? Come out. Don't look at it. It's just a spirit-swallowing fish. What are you looking at? It's just a spirit-swallowing fish. We've been excited for a long time. It's just the most common spirit-swallowing fish. What a waste of time. The audience booed, but Han Fei smiled. A bunch of idiots, I'm afraid you don't know what kind of awesome fish I've caught. But that's fine. I don't want a large group of people to make trouble for me. Han Fei glanced at the black fish that was circling with the little white fish and smiled even more brightly. Sure enough, no one can see you. With a thought from Han Fei, 2 rays of spiritual energy disappeared between his eyebrows. After Han Fei went ashore, Tangu patted Han Fei's shoulder solemnly. It's okay. At least it's an exotic spirit-swallowing fish. And it's said that every cultivator can sign a contract with many fish, such as the tigerhead fish of the tigers. Let's sign a powerful demonic fish in the future. He Xiaoyu said, Han Fei, don't care about those people. Maybe your spirit-swallowing fish has some effect that they don't know. Wang Jia also came to Han Fei's side at this moment. Yes. In fact, you are also an exotic fish. Although we often drink spirit-swallowing fish soup, not many people can awaken a spirit-swallowing fish as a spiritual beast. At this moment, the village leader shouted, Wu Lei, awaken a spirit-swallowing fish as a spiritual beast. Wang Jia, well, Han Fei's face was black. Does your face hurt? Fang Zhe was also a little disappointed. He thought that this person who had been enlightened by a venerable would awaken a powerful exotic spiritual beast, but it turned out to be a pity. Everyone was in low spirits, but Han Fei said with a smile, what's wrong with a spirit-swallowing fish? Even if it's a spirit-swallowing fish, my spirit-swallowing fish is the strongest in the infinite ocean. Everyone, not far away, some teenagers who hadn't entered the pool rolled their eyes. The strongest spirit-swallowing fish in the infinite ocean? Why don't you go to heaven? Han Fei looked at Tang Gu. What did you get? Tang Gu hesitated. He didn't want to discourage Han Fei. Should I say it or not? But He Xiaoyu blurted out, an exotic fish, a legendary level white dragon feather lobster that even Lord Angel has never seen. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Legendary? Tang Gu nodded. You have to be strong yourself. Cultivation can't only depend on spiritual beasts. Han Fei knew that Tang Gu didn't want to discourage him, so he looked at He Xiaoyu and asked, what about you? Did you get a big crab? He Xiaoyu immediately said angrily, what big crab? I don't know how to get a big crab. Look, my little red is so beautiful. With a flash between He Xiaoyu's eyebrows, the clownfish appeared in midair and swam around He Xiaoyu. Han Fei blurted out, clownfish. Smack, He Xiaoyu came up and slapped him. Bah, not clownfish. It should be called a mermaid. Han Fei, although he said clownfish, what Han Fei saw was not clownfish. A string of data appeared. Spiritual beast in name a cardinal fish introduction, a rare fish species with strong territorial awareness and combat ability. It feeds on various sea anemones and can digest various venoms. Level A Level 0 Quality A Rare stored spiritual energy greater than 100 points food sea anemone note, if it evolves into a black sparrow, it will become an exotic fish species. Han Fei thought of the man-eating sea anemone he saw at the bottom of the sea and couldn't help but be surprised. This fish feeds on sea anemones. He Xiaoyu snorted. Yes, its name is also nice. It's called Cardinal. Han Fei asked, you all got an exotic fish? How many people got an exotic fish? He Xiaoyu replied, just me and Tang Gu. Well, Wang Baiyu got a big turtle. Your spirit-swallowing fish should be at the same level as his big turtle. Han Fei knew that He Xiaoyu was comforting him. How could a spirit-swallowing fish be at the same level as a big turtle? Even a big meat turtle was much stronger than a spirit-swallowing fish. The people who entered the pool later opened their spiritual beasts very quickly. Almost no one lasted more than half an hour. None of them got an exotic fish. The best one got a snake belt. After that, the remaining 900 people entered the pool. The water in the pool quickly began to fade, and these people opened their spiritual beasts even faster. In almost half an hour, all of them had opened their spiritual beasts, and the best one got a mutant tentacle lobster. When there were only a few dozen people left in the pool, the green spirit awakening fluid had been completely absorbed. Some of these people cried. I worked so hard to get into the top 1,000, but it's all gone now. Of course, Han Fei and the others couldn't see this because they had already left and went home to practice the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing. Chapter Error. Chapter 62. The cottage where Han Fei lived had become an absolute forbidden area. Even the village leader couldn't come within a kilometer of it. 7 days passed. The sun was setting. In the courtyard of Han Fei's house, Tang Gu was panting and sweating hard with his hands on his knees. Tang Ge was sweating hard, but he laughed. I've finally completed the 108 postures in one go. He Xiaoyu was still completing the 96th posture. Her hair was already wet with sweat, but the girl still asked persistently, Tang Ge, how much has your upper limit of spiritual energy increased? Tang Ge sensed it. I don't know how much, but it seems to be at 299 points. It can't be improved anymore. He Xiaoyu exclaimed, 299 points. So high. Can a level 9 fisher have such a high tolerance for spiritual energy? I think it's only 199 points, but I think it can be improved. I just need to finish all the 108 postures in one go. Han Fei, how much do you have? Han Fei looked at his data. Owner Han Fei, level 7, advanced fisher, spiritual energy at spiritual heritage level 2, low quality, upgradable, spiritual beast at twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish weapon, purple bamboo rod main art avoid fishing, chapter 1, hook kiss, mortal level, divine quality. Han Fei was confused. 299 points seemed to be a threshold, but Tang Ge was already a level 9 fisher. Was his upper limit of spiritual energy only 299 points? Han Fei grinned. What a coincidence. I also have 199 points. He Xiaoyu's eyes lit up. I'm about to surpass you. In the past few days, Han Fei didn't dare to cultivate or upgrade his spiritual heritage. He could only practice the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing with Tang Ge and the others. In fact, he had already reached 299 points. He knew that he couldn't increase it if he didn't make a breakthrough. However, his breakthrough was too noisy to be seen by an outsider like Fang Zhe, so he just practiced the 108 postures over and over again. Of course, in addition to that, he would go to the plantation and the barbecue stall. But every time he brought back, more than half of the barbecue would end up in Fang Zhe's mouth. This guy would never lower himself to buy food from a barbecue stall. Every time, he would give Han Fei a look, so Han Fei became the errand boy. The only person who could come to Han Fei's cabin these days was Li Gang. Every time Li Gang came, he was terrified. He was just a hooligan. This was the first time he saw such a high and mighty figure like an angel. Fortunately, Fang Zhe knew that this guy was here to deliver the materials for distilling spirits. Otherwise, he would have slapped him to death. At this moment, Fang Zhe was amazed. A level 9 fisher with an upper limit of 299 points of spiritual energy. How many people in the city could achieve that? And this was under the situation where he hadn't reached the peak. If he reached the peak, wouldn't it directly surpass 300? It seemed that only fishing masters could do that. What was his upper limit of spiritual energy when he was a level 9 fisher? From here. But now, even unimportant people like He Xiaoyu and Han Fei had gained 199 points just by practicing an incomplete top-level battle technique. It was truly unusual. If Fang Zhe knew that Han Fei's upper limit of spiritual energy was 299 points, he would be shocked. No matter how poor Han Fei's spiritual heritage was, he would take him back to the city. Fang Zhe came down from the roof and looked at Tang Ge. It's almost time. You're free to do whatever you want tonight. When Fang Zhe said this, Tang Ge fell silent. Is it almost time? Are we leaving? He Xiaoyu's eyes turned red when she heard this. Are we going to separate? She felt that she had just found another good friend. Are we leaving now? Han Fei patted Tang Ge on the shoulder and said, I'll ask Li Gang to close the world's most delicious barbecue stall tonight and ask him to make barbecue for us. Tang Ge said, and wine. Han Fei nodded. As much as you want. Both of them grinned. As good brothers, there were many things that they didn't need to say. At night, Li Gang rolled over quickly. When he came to Han Fei, he didn't dare to look around and even didn't dare to walk fast. His wife, Little Red, looked around and seemed to be very curious about why young Master Han Fei lived in such a place. Li Gang said, Hung, don't look. Don't look. You can't offend the angel. Little Red nodded. Okay. At this time, Han Fei said with a smile, Gang, don't worry. Master Angel is not here. You'll be responsible for the barbecue tonight. Make a lot. Hearing that Fang Zhe was not here, Li Gang was relieved and immediately beamed with joy. Okay, young master. They drank wine, ate skewers, and bragged. Tang Gu said, actually, I asked senior brother Fang Zhe. He said that I can come down even if I'm up there. When I become stronger, I can come down. Han Fei said, it's okay. If you can't come down, I can go up there to drink and eat skewers with you. Tang Gu smiled. I know you can. Others think that you rely on me, but I know you don't. You can become a level 7 fisher in a month. Your talent is definitely not ordinary. He Xiaoyu glanced at Han Fei, not believing him, and just ate the skewers in silence. Han Fei suddenly asked, don't city people have to go fishing in the sea? If they don't fish, how can they become stronger? Tang Gu said, yes, but they don't need to fly up and down in the city every day. There seems to be a teleportation array or something. And it's said that the lowest place you can go is the level 2 fishery. Han Fei said, that's easy. Maybe I can go to the level 2 fishery soon. Tang Gu shook his head. It's said that there are many level 2 fisheries in the city. Han Fei nodded. That did make sense. There were countless villages and towns under the city, so it was only natural that there were many level 2 fisheries. So for the whole night, the two of them drank and ate kebabs until they were about to throw up. Han Fei's face was flushed and he was completely drunk, but he still said arrogantly, you go up first. I'll go up sooner or later. My goal is the infinite ocean. As a gold miner, there is no place in this world that I dare not go. He Xiaoyu said, he's drunk. Tang Gu said, this wine is really strong. Then Tang Gu rose and bowed to He Xiaoyu. He Xiaoyu, Han Fei has no friends. You may be his only friend. Please take good care of him for me. He Xiaoyu said, he will bully me. Tang Gu grinned. He won't. He Xiaoyu said, okay then. For the sake of the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing he taught me, I'll take care of him. Tang Gu said, then I'm leaving. He Xiaoyu asked, now? Tang Gu said, yes. Tang Gu left without leaving anything behind. All good things must come to an end, but he believed that they would meet again. Lying on the ground, Han Fei was still murmuring, my goal is the infinite ocean, and endless treasures. The tigers. Li Ju's face was extremely gloomy and he was extremely scared. Li Hu was disabled by Han Fei and the tiger-head fish was seriously injured. Fortunately, the contractual spiritual fish was extremely tenacious, but it was still almost killed. He was very angry and wanted to kill Han Fei, but he didn't dare to. As long as Tang Gu and Fang Zhe didn't leave, he didn't dare to give himself away. Li Ju, come out. Li Ju's heart trembled. Is it coming? Then he smiled bitterly. It had finally come. When Li Hu robbed Han Fei, he knew that this day would come. No matter how powerful Li Ju was, he was just an ant in Fang Zhe's eyes. Creatures like ants could be crushed with a single finger. At the gate of the tigers, Li Ju said, nice to meet you, young master Tang Gu. Tang Gu didn't hide the killing intent in his eyes. Don't pretend. I know what kind of person you are. You are very angry and want to kill my brother. Li Ju said, I dare not. Tang Gu chuckled. I wanted to kill you directly, but when I saw Han Fei today, I don't think it's necessary. Li Ju, you are only worthy of being a stepping stone for my brother. Li Ju didn't say anything, but his pale fingers exposed the fury in his heart at the moment. Tang Gu sneered. No matter how angry you are, your Li family has repeatedly attacked my brother. You can be spared from death, but you can't be forgiven. I'll give you a chance. Hurt yourself and you won't be able to recover within half a year. Li Ju's eyes turned cold. Did Tang Gu really want to keep him as a stepping stone for Han Fei? But did Han Fei deserve it? Li Ju bit the corner of his mouth so hard that blood came out, and he said almost without hesitation, "Thank you for sparing my life, young Master Tang Gu." Bam, 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 dozens of parts of Li Ju's body and limbs exploded one after another. For a time, blood flowed out and he vomited large mouthfuls of blood. At this moment, Feng Zhe quietly appeared beside Tang Gu, watching all this indifferently. Tang Gu looked at Feng Zhe, who nodded, meaning that Li Ju did it. On the way away, Feng Zhe asked, "Are you sure Han Fei can really break that stepping stone?" Tang Gu nodded. "Yes, he is no longer the Han Fei of the past. I'm very sure about this. The Han Fei of the past definitely couldn't do it, but the Han Fei of the present can definitely do it." Chapter error. Chapter 63. When he woke up the next day, Tang Gu was already gone. He Xiaoyu was still eating barbecue. Seeing Han Fei wake up, she shouted, "You're awake. Have you had breakfast?" He Xiaoyu, "Have you been eating all night?" He Xiaoyu said, "No. I just started eating." Han Fei looked at the pile of signatures in front of her and chuckled. "Did I not give you anything to eat? Go home. Gangzi is going to set up a stall." He Xiaoyu pouted. "Tang Gu asked me to take care of you in the future. Don't let anyone kill you." Han Fei was a little unconvinced. "You take care of me? People that I can't beat, can you beat?" He Xiaoyu said, I'll let Little Red beat me." The angel said that Little Red is very strong. Han Fei said, "No matter how strong he is still level 0 now. Ask your father to help your Little Red level up. Otherwise, what if he is bitten to death by other people's yellow fish?" He Xiaoyu said, "No, spiritual beasts won't die in the hands of ordinary demonic fish. Only special methods can kill spiritual beasts. And even if they die, there's a chance to summon them from the Soul Sea." Soul Sea? He Xiaoyu said, "That's right. It's an invisible sea of Hela. It's said that all spiritual beasts live in the Soul Sea." Han Fei thought that there were really a lot of secrets in this world, but he immediately began to drive her away. Go home, or your father will think that you have been kidnapped by me." "What if he comes to me for you?" He Xiaoyu said, "Humph, let's go. I'll ask my father to take me to help Little Red level up. I'm here to pick you up." Suddenly, He Mingtang's voice came not far away. Seeing that his daughter seemed to have changed a lot, He Mingtang smiled and said, "Xiaoyu, come home with me. Your spiritual beast is still an exotic fish, so you need to be careful." He Xiaoyu asked, "Dad, do you want Han Fei to go back with us?" No, He Mingtang and Han Fei said at the same time. Cough, cough, He Mingtang said, "Don't worry. Li Ju, the helper of the tigers, was seriously injured last night. I'm afraid he won't be able to fight for half a year. Now some people have begun to rectify the public security in the East City, and the development of the tigers has also been restricted. I'm afraid it will take at least several months for Li Ju to recover." Li Ju was seriously injured. He Mingtang took a deep look at Han Fei. Why else would Li Ju be seriously injured? It was just that Tang Gu was afraid that Li Ju would attack Han Fei before he left. But everyone didn't understand why Tang Gu didn't kill Li Ju. It was reasonable to say that even if Tang Gu destroyed the tigers, no one in the entire Heavenly Water Village would jump out to say anything. Han Fei said with a smile, "That's even better. He Xiaoyu, go home now. The tigers are nothing now, and I'm going to the plantation to be an apprentice. You can't always follow me." He Xiaoyu said, "Humph, then I'm leaving. The next time you see me, my Little Red will have become very powerful." He Xiaoyu left and Han Fei breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, they were all gone. At the door of the house, Han Fei summoned the twin yin-yang spirit-swallowing fish. The two small fish intertwined and fluttered. The white one didn't move and just stared at Han Fei blankly, while the black one went straight to the bottom of the water tank. Gotcha! In Han Fei's dumbfounded expression, the shell of a big sea clam at the bottom of the water tank was bitten through, and the black one drilled into the shell. Within a few minutes, an empty shell appeared. The little guy wasn't full yet and bit through another big clam. Oh, the black one is so fierce. Han Fei said, Xiaobai, I'll call you Xiaobai from now on. Little black is too fierce. Let's not play with him. Unexpectedly, as soon as Han Fei said this, with a swish, the black spirit-swallowing fish jumped out of the water and spat at Han Fei. Han Fei was stunned. Hey, I'm just kidding. Do you have to be so angry? Han Fei said, I'll play with you. I'll play with you, okay. You're not big, but you have a big temper. Han Fei felt that sea clams were not nutritious. Should he go to the sea to catch some powerful ones for these two little guys to eat? Forget it. It's a bit painful to suppress the breakthrough these days. Let's make a breakthrough first. Han Fei came to the cave and sat cross-legged. However, the first thing he did was not to choose to make a breakthrough but to upgrade his spiritual heritage. It had been half a month. Now that the people who could detect the problem with his spiritual heritage should have disappeared, he could finally upgrade his spiritual heritage without worry. Upgrade. With Han Fei's thought, spiritual energy surged out of Han Fei's body in an instant. He immediately felt that his bones were numb, and sometimes he felt like being pricked by needles. At the same time, impurities began to slowly seep out of his body. After a while, he felt that his bones became a little stiff but more powerful. At this time, Han Fei was secretly scared. Fortunately, he didn't choose to upgrade in front of Fang Zhe. Otherwise, such an obvious situation would definitely be discovered, and then he wouldn't be able to explain it even if he wanted to. About half an hour later, the spiritual energy on the surface of his body calmed down, and no impurities seeped out of his body. At this time, Han Fei looked at his data again. Owner Han Fei, Level 7, Advanced Fisher, Spiritual Energy Spiritual Heritage Level 2, Medium Quality, Upgradable, Spiritual Beast Twin Yin-Yang Spirit Swallowing Fish Weapon Purple Bamboo Rod Main Art Avoid Fishing, Chapter 1, Hook Kiss, Mortal Level, Divine Quality. Han Fei couldn't help but twitch his mouth. It cost him 10,000 points of spiritual energy, but his spiritual heritage was only upgraded from level 2, low quality to level 2, medium quality. However, to his slight surprise, the upper limit of his spiritual energy tolerance increased by 10 points, and this was only the result of the upgrade of his spiritual heritage. He hadn't continued to strengthen it with the incomplete methods of 108 ways of body polishing. It can still be upgraded. Han Fei clicked on the upgrade of spiritual heritage again, only to find that it was still 10,000 points of spiritual energy. He immediately realized that the so-called upgrade was not the upgrade of a major realm, but the upgrade of a minor realm. But on second thought, it made sense. If 10,000 points of spiritual energy could upgrade his spiritual heritage to level 3, it wouldn't take long for him to upgrade it to level 7. Sure enough, there were still limits. Otherwise, it would be too unbelievable. Upgrade. Han Fei chose to upgrade again without hesitation. The same feeling, the same consumption, and the same pleasure. Half an hour later. Owner Han Fei, Level 7, Advanced Fisher, Spiritual Energy Spiritual Heritage Level 2, High Quality, Upgradable, Spiritual Beast Twin Yin-Yang Spirit Swallowing Fish Weapon Purple Bamboo Rod Main Art Avoid Fishing, Chapter 1, Hook Kiss, Mortal Level, Divine Quality. It can still be upgraded? Han Fei clicked on it again, but his face darkened. This time, it cost 20,000 points of spiritual energy. If he upgraded it, wouldn't his spiritual energy be used up? But after thinking about it, Han Fei didn't choose to upgrade it immediately. After all, he still needed to make a breakthrough. Once he upgraded his spiritual heritage, he wouldn't have enough spiritual energy for the breakthrough. But he didn't choose to make a breakthrough immediately. After all, his spiritual heritage had been upgraded to level 2, high quality. Did that mean that the upper limit of his spiritual energy had also increased? So he began to practice the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing. 3 hours later, Han Fei was sweating profusely. He found that the upper limit of his spiritual energy had become 326 points, and it could really be improved. Han Fei was overjoyed. It was said that only fishing masters could have more than 300 points of spiritual energy. 2 days later, Han Fei came out of seclusion. Seeing that he only had 8,200 points of spiritual energy left, Han Fei couldn't help but feel a headache. It consumed too much spiritual energy. It cost him more than 10,000 points of spiritual energy just to make a breakthrough to level 8 fisher. What about level 9? What about becoming a fishing master? And the improvement of his spiritual heritage? Han Fei suddenly felt tired. It seemed that he had to go to the barbecue stall to help again. Han Fei was not disappointed. After all, he might have done what others could do in a few months or even years in one night, and his upper limit of spiritual energy had been increased to 359 points. Others needed to cultivate slowly after making a breakthrough to absorb spiritual energy to strengthen themselves, but he directly broke through to the peak of level 8. Although more than 10,000 points of spiritual energy was a lot, it laid a solid foundation for him. Now he only needed to accumulate spiritual energy, stabilize his cultivation, and wait until he had enough spiritual energy to continue the breakthrough. Han Fei thought for a moment. He had promised the old man that he would help him. If he didn't go, he would break the promise. After all, it had been several days since the awakening. Then Han Fei picked up a jar of wine and went to the plantation. Chapter Error. Chapter 64. Grandpa, I'm here to bring you wine. If you're here, then so be it. Don't you know that it's immoral to wake an old man up from his sleep? Han Fei didn't seem to hear the old man's words and even retorted, if you were really asleep, I wouldn't have woken you up. After the awakening, I hurried over to help you with the garden. The old man naturally took the wine jar, opened the lid, and sniffed it. Then he flicked his beard and grabbed a grilled fish to eat. The old man asked, Boy Han, I heard that you won the first place in the fishing trial. Yes. The old man said again, I heard that you also got the spirit concentration art from the angel. But your awakening is not very good. You got a spirit swallowing fish, which can only be used to make soup. Han Fei asked, You sleep every day. Who did you hear this from? The old man said, That fatty. Han Fei knew that the fatty was talking about Li Gang, who brought wine and barbecue to the old man a while ago. But Han Fei shook his head and said, Mine is the #1 spirit-swallowing fish in the infinite ocean, a spirit-swallowing fish with ideals and goals. Pooh, the old man almost choked. He was so angry that he laughed. Spirit-swallowing fish is a spirit-swallowing fish, the #1 spirit-swallowing fish in the infinite ocean. What? Can it fly to the sky? Han Fei shrugged. I'm not going to argue with you about this. When I shine one day, I will definitely make the twin yin-yang spirit-swallowing fish famous. The old man took 2 sips of wine, put down the wine jar, and said, You said you were going to help me take care of the garden. In fact, you were not qualified, but since you got the spirit concentration art, you're barely qualified. From now on, this 1,000-acre garden will be handed over to you. Plowing the fields, weeding, sowing, watering, gathering spiritual energy. Well, that's all. Han Fei was dumbfounded. He looked at the endless garden in confusion and said, Grandpa, I want to ask who plowed the fields, weeded, sowed, watered, and gathered spiritual energy for you? And what is spirit gathering? The old man grunted and said, I just let them grow freely. When I'm thirsty, I'll pick a few red fruits. As for gathering spiritual aura, the fields have to be fertilized, and spiritual aura is the fertilizer. If we don't gather spiritual aura with the spirit gathering technique, do we have to wait for spiritual aura to drill into the ground by itself? Han Fei asked, wait, so you let them grow unbridledly before? All of it belongs to me. The old man tilted his head. What, you don't want to? Han Fei really wanted to find an iron-head fish and smash it on the old man's head. I've never suffered like this since I was a kid, and now you want me to do this? Forget it. Of course I want to, but Grandpa, I don't know the spirit gathering technique yet. Old man, if you don't know, then learn. Otherwise, why would an angel give you spirit concentration? Han Fei's eyelids twitched. This old man was very arrogant and disrespectful when he talked about angels. It seemed that his guess was right. This old man had a powerful background. Han Fei said, Grandpa, I can't call you Grandpa every day. What's your surname? It's convenient for me to call you Grandpa, isn't it? The old man snorted. Fuck off, you're just a handyman. Why do you need to know the boss's name? Han Fei nodded. Okay, then I'll call you Grandpa from now on. You're the grandpa. You have the final say. As soon as he turned around, Han Fei saw the 1,000-acre plantation and almost fainted. Forget it, farming is too troublesome. I'd better learn the spirit concentration technique first. The old man drank wine, ate barbecue, and occasionally ate peanuts. He was very happy. Han Fei could only find a place to sit down and began to read the method of practicing the spirit concentration technique that Feng Zhe left him. At the first glance, Han Fei was attracted, because what was introduced was not the spirit concentration technique at all, but the 5 major professions on the floating island. The 5 major professions were the only way to become a strong master. Almost everyone who became a great fishing master had to start learning the 5 major professions. In the town, many fisher-level students had already begun to study the 5 major professions. First of all, the 5 major professions were, a spirit gatherer could continuously absorb spiritual energy from heaven and earth. On the battlefield, whoever had a powerful spirit gatherer could take the initiative on the battlefield. A spirit gatherer could not only gather spiritual energy but also set up arrays. In a battle, a spirit gatherer could continuously provide spiritual energy to his comrades and play a pivotal role. Compared with the other 4 major professions, a soul warrior had the highest frontal combat power, the fiercest, and the strongest output. Usually, it had the best weapons and the most abilities. It was a profession that countless people flocked to. A manipulator was a profession that was very difficult to get started in. This kind of people usually had spiritual plants instead of ordinary spiritual beasts. They could control spiritual plants and even imitate creatures with spiritual energy, and they had combat power. Hunters had strong spiritual power and explosive power. It was a profession that was very difficult to practice. They were the kings of assassination. This kind of people usually only practiced the strongest explosive combat skills. When fighting against hunters, few people could survive a round of their explosive combat skills. An armorist was a profession that relied a lot on equipment. They needed all kinds of weapons, offensive and defensive. In a team, they were also responsible for the supply of equipment. The most important thing was that an armorist had the strongest physique and the strongest defense among the 5 major professions. Generally speaking, they were also the wealthiest. Every armorist was a master of body refining. Wow, when Han Fei saw this, he immediately took a breath. Are these the 5 major professions? It seems that every profession is so strong. Han Fei remembered that the armorist of the Wang family, including Wang Baiyu in the fishing trial, both had a box. Was that box used to store weapons? Yes, when they fought that day, 2 cold lights flashed and 2 swords came out. In the Heavenly Water Village, where everyone used sticks, if you used a sword, it would be very unusual and showed that you were also very strong. It was a pity that the jade slip Fang Zhe gave Han Fei was only the most common introduction. It didn't analyze the advantages and disadvantages of each profession, nor did it say which profession was the best, or it was hard to say. Han Fei went straight to the next section, which was about the cultivation methods of spirit gatherers. To become a spirit gatherer, one must have a high control of spiritual energy. First of all, one must be able to mobilize and use the spiritual energy in one's body at will, and then mobilize the spiritual energy outside. Of course, this didn't mean that spirit gatherers could continuously absorb spiritual energy from heaven and earth. If they could, then the other 4 professions wouldn't have anything to do with them. All the spiritual energy would be theirs. Did they want to become sea god directly? Every time they used the spirit concentration art, the cost was multiple. First of all, the spirit gatherer's physical strength, spiritual power, and the spirit gatherer's own spiritual energy. Of course, because spirit gatherers could absorb spiritual energy from between heaven and earth, the consumption of spiritual energy was naturally not a big deal. Anyway, spirit gatherers were not omnipotent. They had their limits. Once the overall consumption was too large, they had to take a rest. At this time, spirit gatherers were the most vulnerable and could easily be killed by others. Of course, spirit gatherers knew not only the spirit concentration art but also many other things, such as gathering clouds and rain, summoning wind, and it was said that a powerful spirit gatherer could summon thunder from the 9th heaven. However, Han Fei, a noob who hadn't even started, didn't think so much. At present, he could only learn the simplest spirit concentration art. According to the jade slip, everyone could feel the spiritual energy in their body, and these spiritual energy points could be controlled. The first step for Han Fei was to separate these spiritual energy points and not let them knead into a ball in his body, so that he could improve the efficiency of the use of spiritual energy. While reading, Han Fei had already begun to cultivate. Spiritual energy balls were not difficult to find. They were concentrated in the position of his dantian, but what Han Fei saw was a mass of spiritual energy. He tried to mobilize it, but there were dozens of points at once, so he dragged these dozens of points of spiritual energy all over his body. As a result, the old man saw a mass of spiritual energy running from his forehead to his chest, from his chest to his arms, and from his arms to his legs. You can't be taught. Can't you ask them to stop and carefully pull out a little more? Just let the rest of the spiritual energy go back by themselves. Although Han Fei closed his eyes, his ears were still working. His first reaction was, what the hell? The spiritual energy can go back by itself? So Han Fei hurriedly stopped the spiritual energy. Sure enough, as soon as he stopped, the spiritual energy wanted to run back. At this time, Han Fei pulled a little more, and suddenly the spiritual energy ball was reduced by half. Then Han Fei carefully stopped again and let it go back by itself. Slowly, sweating profusely, he finally separated a small mass of 4 or 5 points of spiritual energy. But in the end, maybe the traction force was not strong enough, he accidentally lost his grip, and the 4 or 5 points of spiritual energy began to run back again, closely chasing Han Fei. As a result, when he caught up with them, they had already reached his dantian. The 4 or 5 points of spiritual energy were like raindrops falling into the sea, becoming a mass again. But he didn't know that the old man was drinking outside while watching and nodding from time to time. Chapter Error. Chapter 65. At night, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Only the rustling of the grass could be heard in the plantation. Han Fei was still trying to drag the spiritual energy in his body. He had gradually mastered the technique. Now he could succeed 5 or 6 times out of 10, and his speed was many times faster than the first time. The old man could see that this kid's mind was so focused that he was not disturbed by the outside world at all. He was a natural spirit gatherer. You let him manage such a large plantation alone. If Han Fei was sober at this time, he would find a very familiar person standing next to the old man at this moment, Jiang Qin, the registrar of the departure port. The old man said, he asked to come here to do odd jobs, not me. Jiang Qin said, maybe he has a certain talent for being a spirit gatherer, but does he have a talent for alchemy? The old man said, you can't say that. This kid's control ability is very good. Generally speaking, people with good control ability will not be too bad at alchemy or refining. Of course, I'm just giving him a chance to familiarize himself with the thousands of kinds of useless spiritual fruits in this low-level plantation. I don't think he can become an alchemist. It depends on his luck. If he succeeds, I can recommend him to the hundreds of thousands of acres of plantation in the town and tens of thousands of kinds of spiritual fruits. What if he can make some progress? Jiang Qin was silent for a moment. I think he can become a soul warrior. He survived many small fish tides, which shows that he has a certain fighting ability. In this fishing trial, he crippled Li Hu and Xia Wushuang with a low-level spiritual heritage, which can prove this. The old man said, bullshit. What's the point of fighting and killing? Can 10 soul warriors be a match for a spirit gatherer that can be killed by one? Jiang Qin was silent for a moment. Whatever. I just wonder why he can advance so fast. If the spiritual heritage test is not wrong, he must have obtained some kind of opportunity. The old man said, he is good at body refining, far better than his peers, even better than the heavenly talents in the town, which shows that his opportunity should be in body refining. In the morning, the old man was still sleeping and he could hear the sound of, wow, wow, wow. Little bastard, shut up. Han Fei grinned from ear to ear. Grandpa, I succeeded. Look. Han Fei's body stabilized. About 7 or 8 seconds later, a bit of spiritual energy was gathered on his fingertips. Amos rolled his eyes. Forget it. It took an entire night just to decompose the spiritual qi, and you still need so much time. Do you know how to write the word shame? Han Fei asked weakly, Sir, how long does it usually take? The old man's face was dark. When you reach 1 second, you can barely gather spiritual energy. A real spirit gatherer can summon spiritual energy at will, not counting it according to 1 second. Ah. Han Fei tilted his head. Sir, it's just a matter of practice. Practice makes perfect. The old man said, then you practice first. Han Fei scratched his head. Is it so difficult to be a spirit gatherer? It was a bit difficult to break down the spiritual energy points in an instant. Forget it, this old man is a big shot. Let's do as he says first. In the blink of an eye, he continued to sit down. 3 days later. Grandpa, I made it. Ha, I'm a genius. Grandpa, I made it. Han Fei raised his hand and a little spiritual energy point appeared on his fingertip. The old man said unhappily, if you want to call me Grandpa, call me Grandpa. If you want to call me Old Master, call me Old Master. Don't keep calling me that. And you're not a genius at all. It's just decomposing spiritual energy points. It took you so long to reach the qualified standard. Don't you see I've finished my wine? Hurry up and get me some wine. Han Fei snorted as he walked out. Don't be so fierce. Although it's a bit slow, I made it. Han Fei didn't know that the old man quickly took a sip of wine to calm himself down. He was scared. Is this brat so talented as a spirit gatherer? How long did it take him to decompose spiritual energy points? It seemed to take half a year. The most delicious barbecue stall in the world. Li Gang and his wife had completely become barbecue kings. The barbecue business was still very busy. Although many people had lost interest in barbecue, they could still sell half of the original price every day. Seeing Han Fei coming to help, Li Gang hurriedly said, Oh, young master, we can do this ourselves. You're not suitable to do this. Han Fei said, Don't move. Go to work. I'm here to feed the fish. Li Gang. With a flash between Han Fei's eyebrows, the twin yin-yang spirit-swallowing fish appeared. Of course, Li Gang could only see the white one. The corner of Li Gang's mouth twitched. Young master, does the spirit-swallowing fish eat these fish? Doesn't it eat spiritual energy? Han Fei, huh? Han Fei suddenly remembered. Oh, right. Didn't the spirit-swallowing fish eat spiritual energy? Why the hell did he feed the fish? Dozens of spiritual energy points immediately appeared on Han Fei's fingertips and he handed them over. Little White quickly swam over and then swallowed them in one gulp. Sure enough, it's really easy to eat spiritual energy. I just don't know how much I should feed it a day. Little Black, come here and eat. However, Han Fei found that Little Black didn't eat his spiritual energy at all but dove into the pile of fish. After a while, a fish bone appeared in the bucket. Ha! Little Black doesn't eat spiritual energy, but only Little White does. Han Fei suddenly had a question. When he checked the data, the two fishes should have 2 lines of data, but there was only 1 line of data. Then what did the 2 fishes mean? Were the spiritual energy of these 2 fishes interconnected? If one was full, the other wouldn't be hungry. Thinking of this, Han Fei quickly took Little Black out of the bucket and continuously supplied spiritual energy to Little White from his fingertips. 100 points. 200 points. 500 points. 800 points. Han Fei's face was all black. Are you a fucking pig? Is spiritual energy free? It's only been a few minutes and you've already eaten 800 points of spiritual energy. You glutton. Suddenly, when Little White ate 1,000 points of spiritual energy, it stopped eating. Instead, its body flashed slightly and it seemed to grow a little bigger. Han Fei almost didn't notice it. Han Fei immediately looked at the data. Spiritual beast in name a twin yin-yang spirit-swallowing fish. Introduction. This is a descendant of the mysterious ancient yin-yang sky-swallowing fish. The black and white fish live together. The white fish is docile and the black fish is cruel. They are symbiotic. As long as one of them survives, the other will not die. Level 1 Quality a mysterious storage of spiritual energy greater than 1,000 points. Food omnivorous. It can swallow anything. Note the black fish is invisible. Except for the director, only those with the yin-yang divine eyes can see it. Fuck, Li Gang poked his head out of the barbecue stall. Young master, what's wrong? Han Fei replied, well, nothing. Go on with your business. Han Fei was a little speechless. He spent 1,000 points of spiritual energy to upgrade 1 level, only to have 1,000 points of spiritual energy stored. Isn't this too much? I'm a fucking big human being. I've worked so hard and only have a upper limit of 326 points of spiritual energy. Compared with this level 1 fish, I'm nothing. Although he was shocked, Han Fei still took Little White out and stopped feeding it spiritual energy. Then he threw Little Black into the bucket. However, Little Black directly began to swim in it, not even looking at the big yellow fish, little white fish, and the like. Oh. Is it full? Han Fei nodded. Sure enough, these 2 fishes were the same. When one was full, 2 fishes would not be hungry. Han Fei was very happy. Although he hadn't figured out the other abilities of these 2 fishes, he was quite excited just by looking at the difficulty of upgrading and the amount of spiritual energy they could store. After a while, Han Fei sucked back the 1,000 points of spiritual energy that he had lost, and then he went to the plantation with the barbecue and wine. Han Fei asked, Grandpa, do you think I can get to know those spiritual fruits now? The old man said, don't rush. You haven't even learned how to crawl and you want to run away. Can you absorb the spiritual energy in the outside world? Try it. Han Fei was actually selfish. He actually wanted to plant this thing in his Forge the Universe. Why? It would be convenient for him to pick the fruits in the future. Then he would be free. He wouldn't have to do odd jobs in a damn place like the plantation anymore. In fact, he had already done that. He had thrown garlic, chili, ginger, and other condiments in, but unfortunately, they hadn't germinated yet and he didn't know if they could germinate. After being scolded by the old man, Han Fei could only continue to experiment pitifully. Chapter error. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.